Chapter 211. Jing Yunjiao didn't wait for Jing Taijun to respond and turned to leave. Her elegant and cold figure made Jing Taijun dumbfounded. He had 3 children, and 2 of them were daughters. Those 2 girls were only a few years younger than Jing Yunjiao, but they weren't like her at all. Where's Xiao Yun? When Wang Xinfang came out of the checkup, she saw that her husband was the only one around and asked. She left. Jing Tiejuan's face didn't look too good and added, she said that she's not our daughter yet, so there's no need to take full responsibility. Hearing this, Wang Xinfang's eyes widened. How could there be such an unreasonable child? Although the test results wouldn't be out for the time being, now that the other aspects were almost confirmed, Jing Yunjiao should have an idea in her heart, right? How was she like a 16-year-old child? That cold look made it seem like they had a deep hatred. The 2 looked at each other and didn't say much. But when they thought of the money they paid for the checkup, their hearts ached. Since Jing Yunjiao came to Ning City, she naturally had to go to the company. The housing prices in Ning City couldn't be compared to Huaning County. Pak Yuan rented a floor of an office building in Ning City, and the area wasn't small. Now that everyone in the company had their own duties, plus the fact that they had just started a business, their enthusiasm was extremely high. These days, all the products of Yuling wine were taken out by Jing Yunjiao from her space. But it wouldn't be long before the factory could support the entire industry chain, so she didn't need to work so hard. At this time, when Pak Yuan and Xiang Jin heard that she had come to Ning City, they were inexplicably excited and even nervous. Even though Jing Yunjiao was still young, her imposing manner had never been weak. Even though the company looked like it was in shape, they were still worried that something would happen to the employees when Jing Yunjiao, the real big boss, arrived. Thus, on this day, the requirements for the employees were even stricter. Everyone originally thought that there would be some powerful client coming to inspect them, but they found out that the person who came in was just a 15 or 16-year-old girl. They were puzzled and even a little confused. In order to avoid affecting the morale of the employees, Jing Yunjiao's identity wasn't strict. In the eyes of the employees, she was just the sister of the general manager, Pak Yuan. Pak Yuan was in his 30s, and his appearance was outstanding, but he wasn't a warm man at all. Because of work, Pak Yuan was even stricter to his employees. Xiang Jin was the same, separating public and private matters. Once it involved business, she wouldn't give face to anyone. These 2 people of them were the company's general manager, and the other were the company's vice president, and they were both single. However, the other higher-ups in the company were all selected by Yu In and Jing Yunjiao. Their character was trustworthy, and they wholeheartedly devoted themselves to their work. They didn't have any crooked thoughts. As for the normal employees, even if they had feelings of admiration, they still revered Bai Yuan more. The atmosphere was harmonious, but when they saw Jing Yunjiao, they couldn't help but reveal looks of envy. Xiang Jin and Pak Yuan reported their work in the past few days according to the procedures, without the slightest hint of perfunctory. Jing Yunjiao found that the 2 of them handled everything in the company very well. After listening to these reports, it was already 5 or 6 in the evening. After all, Pak Yuan was a man, so Jing Yunjiao only let Xiang Jin accompany her to walk around Ning City at night. This city shone with neon lights, with some shocking beauty. Chapter 212. Xiang Jin had lived in Ning City for more than 20 years, so she was very familiar with this place. She specially brought Jing Yunjiao to a very good restaurant. It was quiet and elegant and quite romantic. Yunjiao, have you ever thought about transferring schools? I'm thinking that our company's development will definitely get better and better. If you're in Ning City, it'll be more convenient for you to exchange ideas. Moreover, Ning City's education is much better than Huaning County. You don't have any relatives in the county, Xiang Jin said with good intentions. Jing Yunjiao smiled. It's enough to have you guys here in Ning City. If there's really a big matter, you can contact me with a phone call. So let's just forget about transferring schools. Ning City was indeed good, but there were people she couldn't let go of in Huaning County. Grandpa Gon, Old Man Su, Xiao Haiqing, and Su Chu were the biggest gains in her life. As for grades, she wasn't worried at all. Although the learning environment was important, it still depended on the person. She believed that no matter what kind of situation she was in, she would be able to get the best grades. Otherwise, she would have been reborn for nothing. Right. If I remember correctly, you start school the day after tomorrow, right? Why did you think of coming to Ning City at this time? Xiang Jin took a sip of tea and asked puzzledly. She and Pak Yuan often went back to the county. Every time they went back, they would report to Jing Yunjiao about their work. There was nothing to worry about at the company. If it was purely for sightseeing, they should have come earlier. That way, they could have stayed in Ning City for a few more days. Yesterday, when I was shopping with my friends, I met an auntie. She was certain that I was her long-lost daughter, so today I specially came to do a paternity test. Jing Yunjiao played it down. Thinking about what happened during the day at the hospital, she still felt uncomfortable. But fortunately, she had experienced that kind of thing countless times in the Qiao family. Even if the other party was her biological parents, they were no different from strangers. So she didn't feel sad. When Xiang Jin heard this, she was shocked. Paternity test? When she met Jing Yunjiao, she only had gone Songbai, her god-grandfather, by her side. The old man never mentioned anything about Jing Yunjiao's family to her, but she did ask Pak Yuan about it. She only knew that her adoptive parents were extremely biased and selfish people, causing Jing Yunjiao to suffer a lot in the past. Therefore, every time she saw Jing Yunjiao, she would deliberately avoid talking about family matters. What kind of people are they? Is it good for you? Xiang Jin asked nervously. Although she hadn't spent much time with Jing Yunjiao, she was grateful to Jing Yunjiao from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for her, she wouldn't have been able to contact Master Tang. Later on, she wouldn't have been able to get a divorce. Her life would have been completely ruined. She respected and cared for Jing Yunjiao. She treated her as her boss, but at the same time, she also treated her as a family member and even as a daughter. In terms of age, she and Pak Yuan were older than Jing Yunjiao by 16 or 17 years. It wasn't an exaggeration to treat her as a daughter. It was just that Jing Yunjiao's personality was mature and steady, so they always overlooked this point. Jing Yunjiao stirred the drink in front of her. After the waiter served a few sumptuous dishes and left, she said, "We just met yesterday. I can't tell if it's good or bad, but I'm a very simple person. If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. But if the other party isn't easy to get along with, then I'm too lazy to deal with them." When Xiang Jin heard this, she nodded. Jing Yunjiao's personality was indeed like that. It had to be said that with her temperament, it wasn't easy for her to be taken advantage of in this kind of situation. Even if they were biological parents, after all, they had been separated for more than 10 years. It was still very difficult for them to develop feelings for each other. However, Xiang Jin was still a little worried. From her point of view, she hoped that Jing Yunjiao and the company would be well. But if that pair of parents knew that the young Jing Yunjiao had amassed such wealth, would they not have any greedy thoughts in their hearts? Chapter 213. Yuling Wines was a rising star and had the most advantageous position. Xiang Jin and Pak Yuan were confident that they could make a name for themselves within a year and gain a firm foothold in Ning City's wine industry. Within 5 years, they even had hopes of making Yuling Wines the leader of the entire industry. They had the best wine recipes and didn't have to worry about development at all. As long as the owner of the company didn't have any problems. Yunjiao, CEO by and I will try our best to contact you through the phone in the future. It's better to be careful during this period of time. Also, even if they're your biological parents, you can't foolishly throw in all your savings before you know what their character is like. Xiang Jin said. Her meaning was clear. She hoped that Jing Yunjiao would continue to keep the company's matters a secret. This was indeed a bit unreasonable, but it was better to be safe than sorry. If the other party was sincere towards Jing Yunjiao, she believed that they wouldn't have any designs on the company. But what if they had other intentions? Those were parents who hadn't lived together before. They couldn't be compared to ordinary parents. Moreover, they hadn't seen each other for more than 10 years. She didn't believe that they didn't have any other children. In comparison, Jing Yunjiao, who had led a wandering life, definitely wasn't as important as the one by her side. What if she suffered because of this? How could Jing Yunjiao not understand that Xiang Jin was concerned about her? Her heart also warmed. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She wasn't a selfish person. Towards relatives like Gan Songbai, she could unconditionally treat them well. But if they were like Xiao Wei Min, Jing Yunjiao smiled, a glimmer of light flashing through her eyes. No matter how important blood ties were, they couldn't be compared to feelings. Seeing Jing Yunzhao's calm expression, Xiang Jin let out a sigh of relief. She didn't forget that although the girl in front of her looked young, she was definitely different from those childish children. Her words even carried an invisible authority that could make her feel at ease every time. "Oh right, Aunt Xiang. How's the old lady? Do you want me to go see her tomorrow?" Jing Yunzhao suddenly asked. Xiang Jin's mother wasn't clear-headed because of the shock. She had been recuperating in the hospital before, but how could Qin Ji Shui really let someone treat her? That was why his condition hadn't improved after so many years. In fact, it was getting worse. "It's best if you're willing. My mother doesn't even recognize me now. Uncle Gon went to visit her a few days ago and said that her mind is in a mess. She won't be able to recover in a short period of time. It's best for her to recuperate and then slowly guide her. She also has to pay attention to her daily life. Even the flowers in the house are used to calm her mind," Xiang Jin said. Xiang Jin had some faith in Jing Yunzhao's medical skills. She wasn't very knowledgeable in this area, but she did know that Jing Yunzhao had surprised many doctors before. Moreover, she never exaggerated and always did what she said. She said she wanted to take a look, so who knows, she might be able to cure the old lady. Xiang Jin happily nodded her head in agreement. They chatted for a while eating, and the two of them became more and more harmonious. Just as the two were about to pay and leave after finishing their meal, a woman in a red dress appeared in front of Xiang Jin. She looked at her in surprise and said, "Xiang Jin, you're Xiang Jin, right?" The other party had long wavy hair and a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. She carried a branded bag in her hand and wore a short red dress. Her figure was enchanting and charming. Jing Yunzhao only felt a pair of large breasts swaying back and forth in front of her eyes, so much so that she felt dizzy. Also, that strong perfume smell made her nose itch uncontrollably. "You are." Xiang Jin was a little stunned. She was clearly shocked by this woman who suddenly appeared. Chapter 2:14. Xiang Jin had left Serene City for so many years, and now she had no friends in Serene City. Some of her old friends had even forgotten about her. "Director Xiang, why are you so forgetful?" The woman smiled charmingly and continued, "A few days ago, I saw a news article saying that Director Qin had gone bankrupt. I didn't believe it at first, but then I found some posts on the internet where Director Qin seemed to be a different person. I almost didn't recognize him." The woman said with a sympathetic face, "In the past, we were all so envious of you, Director Xiang. Not only did you have such a big family business, but you also had a filial husband. After you retired, we all thought that you were enjoying life. We didn't expect that you were bullied by that beast in human clothing all these years." The woman kept calling her Director Xiang, which made Xiang Jin remember. "You're little Lu?" Xiang Jin asked. "What little Lu?" "Director Xiang, I have a name. My name is Lu Danqing. You can call me Miss Lu or Danqing, but don't call me little Lu. It sounds like I'm your errand girl." Lu Danqing rolled her eyes. Who was she envious of the most in the past? Wasn't it Xiang Jin? She had been a spoiled young lady since she was young. After her father died, she naturally inherited the company and even married a handsome and capable husband. Who wouldn't be envious? At that time, Lu Danqing was just a small secretary. Because she had just started working, she kept making mistakes. Xiang Jin often scolded her, making her embarrassed several times. How could a newbie be perfect at work? This Xiang Jin would make a big fuss out of nothing, as if she was getting her salary for nothing. Both Xiang Jin and Jing Yunzhao felt the hostility from the other party. Xiang Jin remembered, but she was also a little surprised because the Lu Danqing in her memory was not like this. At that time, she was pure and pretty. She had chosen her to work by her side because of her clean temperament. However, Lu Danqing was a little impetuous at that time, so she deliberately taught her a few times. But when she thought of the past, she really didn't feel that she had done anything wrong to Lu Danqing. One had to know that with her status at that time, even if she wanted to hire a small secretary, she should have hired someone with enough experience. Moreover, the treatment of being her secretary was better. It could be said that she had promoted Lu Danqing. "I've offended you, Miss Lu, but please make way, we're leaving." Xiang Jin thought for a moment and said. She didn't want to stir up trouble, especially in front of Jing Yunjiao. What's the hurry? What did you guys eat today? Do you want me to pay for you? Lu Danqing's posture was strange and coquettish, and her voice was coquettish. No need, Xiang Jin said. Director Xiang, you don't have to be so courteous. I know you're not doing well right now. I heard that Qin Jishui swindled your company and money. You've stayed at home for so many years and haven't gone out to work, so I'm sure you don't have any savings on you. We used to know each other, so I can still afford to treat you to a meal, Lu Danqing said as she dug into her bag, looking like she was about to pay. But after a while, she frowned again. Aya, I only have a card. I originally wanted to give you 200 yuan to solve your livelihood problem. Xiang Jin's expression did not look too good. It wasn't that she didn't understand this kind of woman. She just felt that she was more capable than her now, so she wanted to show off in front of her to satisfy her vanity. Chapter 2:15. Xiang Jin glanced at Lu Danqing, shook her head, took out her wallet, and paid the bill. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not so poor that I need charity. In addition, maybe you talked too much just now. The makeup on your face is cracked. Lu Danqing was stunned, and quickly took out a mirror to look. Seeing that the makeup on her face was still the same, she suddenly snorted, and subconsciously blocked the way of Jing Yunjiao and Xiang Jin. Pretending to be fat, General Manager Xiang, you still look charming and beautiful. It's okay if you don't want me to help you. I know a lot of big bosses. How about I introduce them to you? Oh, by the way, do you still remember General Manager Wang? A few years ago, he pursued you but was rejected by you. I believe that if he sees you now, he will definitely be interested. You can take the opportunity to make a fortune. Lu Danqing pestered. Jing Yunjiao didn't see many people before, so when he saw this kind of woman, he was more curious than angry. Although this Lu Danqing was dressed in famous brands, she looked tacky when she wore them, like an ancient prostitute. She wasn't very tall, but she was wearing such high heels and had so much makeup on. She wasn't young anymore, but she still pretended to be a young girl. It made people feel a little nauseous when they heard it. At this time, Xiang Jin was a little speechless. Was her temperament now like a miserable woman who could only rely on men to help her? Lu Danqing said, and had already found General Manager Wang's business card, and handed it to Xiang Jin with a sympathetic face. At the same time, a man appeared behind Lu Danqing. His appearance was a little greasy and his beer belly was very ugly. He reached out and held Lu Danqing's waist as he called out, "Little darling," causing goosebumps to appear all over Jing Yunjiao's body. "Baby, why don't you introduce them? Who are these two beauties?" The man stared at Jing Yunjiao with a surprised face. These days, it was not easy to find a pure little girl. The one in front of him, even in terms of appearance, could be called the best in the world. Birds of a feather flocked together. When the man saw that Jing Yunjiao and Xiang Jin were hanging out with Lu Danqing, he naturally categorized them together with Lu Danqing. His gaze was lustful and unbridled. "You're so annoying. Are you going to fall in love with that old thing? I just wanted to go back and give you a surprise." Lu Danqing leaned in the man's arms and said coquettishly. He was gloating inwardly. In the past, the people who pursued Xiang Jin were basically some rich young masters. They were rich and good-looking. At that time, she was very jealous when she saw so many people sending flowers to Xiang Jin every day. But now, her mood was better. Although it was a different starting point, in the end, wasn't Xiang Jin the same as her? She even had to sell her body. Her so-called self-esteem and modesty instantly crumbled in the face of money. At this time, Xiang Jin was also disgusted. She had not encountered this kind of thing for many years. The man stretched out his meaty hand towards Jing Yunjiao and said, "Little girl, shall I take you out to play?" Xiang Jin raised her eyebrows and looked at the man with a mocking smile. The other party was still a little surprised by Xiang Jin's reaction. Suddenly, a kacha sound came from his outstretched hand. A wave of pain instantly enveloped his whole body. It was as if his fingers were broken. He immediately howled. Xiang Jin was amused. This person dared to touch Jing Yunjiao? She knew that Jing Yunjiao was definitely violent enough to deal with this kind of person. Every time she saw it, her admiration for Jing Yunjiao increased by 1 point. Chapter 2:16. Jing Yunjiao rubbed his wrist and sighed. He said to Xiang Jin, Director Xiang, I'm still underage. It's better if we don't stay in such a foul place. Lu Danqing was stunned. Why did this girl call her Director Xiang? She called her Director Xiang out of respect, but in fact, she was deliberately provoking Xiang Jin to mock her. But this little girl, the next second, Xiang Jin nodded and accompanied Jing Yunjiao out. They got into a car. This car belonged to the company. It was convenient for business meetings. Although it wasn't very expensive, it was at least 1,000,000 yuan. Lu Danqing was a little dumbfounded. The car of the man beside her was only worth a few 100,000 yuan. He was only a company manager and not a big boss. But in her eyes, this was considered good. After all, she wasn't young anymore. It was impossible for her to find those young and promising people. She knew that. But what was wrong with Xiang Jin? Wasn't she cheated of her money by her husband and they were divorced? How could she have such a good car? Why are you in a daze? Hurry up and send me to the hospital. Lu Danqing was staring blankly at the back of the car when the man beside her roared. After Lu Danqing sent the man to the hospital, she became more and more upset. In the end, she turned on the computer and entered Xiang Jin's name. She thought that there wouldn't be any relevant information, but unexpectedly, Xiang Jin's introduction appeared on the interface. When she saw it, she was shocked and embarrassed. No wonder Xiang Jin didn't even look at her when she said so much. It turned out that her life wasn't as bad as she thought. She was as dazzling as she was 10 years ago. The deputy director of the new company, Yuling Wines. It was just a few words. The rest of the momentum was about Yuling Wines. But these few words were enough to make her unable to raise her head. She looked at the company's situation again and realized that it hadn't been established for long, but the market's expectations were surprisingly high. Moreover, the experts' evaluation was very good. It seemed to be the new wine company with the best prospects at the moment. Lu Danqing suddenly regretted. If she hadn't said those presumptuous words and was polite and respectful to Xiang Jin, would she have been able to work by Xiang Jin's side like 10 years ago? Although she would suffer some setbacks sometimes, to be honest, the treatment was still very good. And it would definitely be much better than her current job. Lu Danqing was so jealous that she tossed and turned all night. However, for Jing Yunjiao and Xiang Jin, this was just a small interlude, and they forgot about it in the blink of an eye. In the sanatorium, Jing Yunjiao finally met up with Xiang Jin's mother. After checking her pulse and other aspects of her condition, she was already 120% confident that she could cure her. However, she still needed to massage her acupoints for a period of time and then take some medicine. It would be impossible for her mother to fully recover by today. Jing Yunjiao wrote a prescription and taught Xiang Jin the massage method. Only then did he feel at ease and return to Huaning County. The summer vacation was over. On the first day of school, Jing Yunjiao, Su Chu, and Gan Jinshen walked to school together. As soon as they left the neighborhood, they saw a figure anxiously waiting for them. Wang Xianfang walked over with a face full of concern. Xiao Yun, your dad and I know that you've started school, so we specially bought you a new set of clothes. I originally wanted to send it to you, but I don't know which unit you live in. As she said that, she stuffed the bag into Jing Yunjiao's hands. Su Chu and Gan Jinshen looked at Wang Xianfang in surprise. They felt a little strange. Could this be Xiao Weiman's new wife? But how could Xiao Weiman be so nice as to be willing to buy clothes for Jing Yunjiao? Could it be that he wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail Jing Yunjiao? Chapter 217. The two cast a surprised look at Jing Yunjiao, but Jing Yunjiao handed the clothes back. I can't accept this. Take it back and return it. She wasn't being polite to Wang Xinfang, but she didn't like to take advantage of others. If they had already confirmed their relationship, it would be normal to return the favor. Then she might accept Wang Xinfang's good intentions. But the problem was that the test results weren't out yet. Wang Xinfang's face turned pale, and she looked like she was about to collapse. Xiao Yun, Mom doesn't have any other intentions. I just want to fulfill my responsibility as a mother. I haven't bought you a single piece of clothing in all these years. You're at the age where you should dress up well. Mom just wants you to be happy. After speaking, Wang Xinfang took out the clothes from the bag and gestured to Jing Yunjiao. Look at how beautiful this dress is, Xiao Yun. Your skin is white, it will definitely match. The dress was pink with lace. This kind of sweet style didn't match Jing Yunjiao at all. With Jing Yunjiao's appearance and figure, she could wear any style of clothing, but her temperament was very cold. Even if it looked good in this dress, it wouldn't make people feel comfortable. If this dress was worn by Suchu, perhaps it would bring out the best in each other. Aunt Wang, Jing Yunjiao called out, and then said, "The style of your dress is quite cute. I believe your second daughter can wear it, so you should take it back. It's getting late. I still have to go to class." No, I bought this for you. You have to accept it. Xiao Yun, don't worry. Your two sisters definitely won't fight with you for anything. I'll talk to them nicely. When the test results are out, you can move back home on Saturday and Sunday. The family has prepared a separate room for you. You won't be wronged. Wang Xinfeng hurriedly explained, and then said, "I know your grades are good. You're the most promising one in our family. Study hard. I won't hold you back." After speaking, she stuffed the clothes back into Jing Yunjiao's hands, turned around, and ran away. That anxious figure seemed to be afraid that Jing Yunjiao would chase after her. Suchu and Gan Jinchun were stunned. "Cousin, what does she mean? Why did you claim to be your mother?" Suchu pointed at Wang Xinfeng's back and asked. Gan Jinchun immediately pulled Suchu. "Yunjiao, are you okay?" Even a fool could see that this woman and Xiao Weimin were not family. It was very likely that they were Jing Yunjiao's biological parents. No wonder Xiao Haiqing stammered when she called them yesterday. It turned out that she was worried that Jing Yunjiao would be in a bad mood because of his biological parents. "I'm fine." Jing Yunjiao shook his head and turned back to the house to put the clothes away for the time being. If she didn't accept this thing, Wang Xinfeng might come to the school later. She didn't want to make things more troublesome. Actually, Wang Xinfeng and Jing Taijun were most likely related to her by blood. However, she didn't know why, but she didn't have much enthusiasm for them. She even subconsciously wanted to keep a distance from them. Jing Yunjiao sighed and went to the school. She didn't say anything along the way. A new semester, a new grade, but for Jing Yunjiao, there weren't many changes. Arts and science had already been chosen before her rebirth, and the first half of the first year of high school had been redivided into classes, so it was still the same. The students hadn't changed, and the homeroom teacher hadn't changed. At most, a few teachers had changed. Jing Yunjiao was still Teacher Qi's class representative. As soon as she arrived at the school, she was ordered by Teacher Qi to inspect her homework. However, what surprised Jing Yunjiao was that she didn't know when a love letter and breakfast were placed in her drawer. Chapter 218. Ever since Qiao Hongye dropped out of school, Jing Yunjiao's bad reputation had almost become a thing of the past. No one mentioned it anymore. Her grades were good and she looked good. Usually, there would be boys appearing at the door of the class, but there weren't many who dared to pass love letters so openly. Jing Yunjiao didn't react at all, and casually placed the letter and breakfast on the table. Xiao Haiqing saw it, and immediately snatched it. "Wow, Yunjiao, your charm is really good. You received a love letter on the first day of school. This person must have been secretly in love with you for a long time." Xiao Haiqing shouted. She purposely raised her voice, mainly because she wanted to see Jing Yunjiao's embarrassed expression. However, Jing Yunjiao only raised her eyebrows and glanced at her. She was completely calm, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. "Are you okay? You're not happy even after receiving a love letter? I'm going to suspect your gender?" Xiao Haiqing said in surprise. She had also received love letters before, but they were usually written by bad boys because those shy boys didn't dare to get close to her. It was as if she was a virus that was contagious. Or it could be said that those people were afraid that she would beat them up if she was unhappy, so only those who could endure a beating dared to express their affection for her. But even if she was usually confident and bold, when she received a love letter, she would still be a little happy. Rejecting was one thing, but enjoying this kind of favor was another. She was a tyrannical flower, but no matter how tyrannical she was still a flower. Xiao Haiqing was beaming with joy, as if she had discovered something amazing. Jing Yunjiao was speechless and choked. "There's no problem with my gender. Not everyone will be happy because of this kind of thing." In her previous life, she had lived to the age of 20. She was a real adult. Even if her body was still young, her heart was mature. How could she be excited because of a little boy's love letter? "You're really boring. Let me help you see what's written in this love letter. Xiao Haiqing smiled mischievously and shook the love letter with a face full of curiosity. She didn't want those crooked people to covet their Yunjiao. A love letter represented a person's words and taste, so they had to be carefully examined. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she saw that Jing Yunjiao did not refuse, so she opened the envelope. It was a white envelope with a red heart drawn on the seal. In the eyes of the two of them, it was a little childish. Looking at the letter again, it was pink. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips. The color that did not match Jing Yunjiao the most was pink. The other party was definitely stupid. Xiao Haiqing opened it, and the corners of her mouth twitched. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen behind her couldn't help but lean forward. Suddenly, they all had strange expressions on their faces, as if they had eaten a pile of dead flies. When Jing Yunjiao saw their expressions, he became curious. After a while, Xiao Haiqing looked at him sympathetically and began to read. Dear Zhaoer, forgive me for my rudeness, because I feel that I really can't bear to miss you these days. I miss your pair of eyes that are as gentle as water. I miss your tender and alluring little lips, and your pure white skin that is so smooth and tender. Your gentle appearance floats in my mind every day, making me unable to extricate myself. I know that you must like me too. I can often feel your gaze on my body, and every time it makes my heart beat faster. Everything about you is so precious. I want to protect you in the palm of my hand, deep into my bones. There's not a moment when I don't want to hug you tightly in my arms and rub you fiercely. When he said this, Jing Yunjiao's face darkened. Chapter 219. Xiao Haiqing felt a little guilty. The first part of the love letter wasn't that disgusting, but the part that they couldn't accept was at the end. You don't have to read it. Jing Yunjiao took the love letter with a gloomy face and continued to read it. In the dark night, I fantasize about your pair of sparkling eyes, making me tense up all over my body, making me unable to release my emotions. I want to carve my love for you on my body, caressing it every day and night. You're so beautiful, so outstanding, so tempting. I've dreamt countless times that I have you by my side, under my body, in my heart. Your voice tugs at my heartstrings, making me go crazy for you. Rather than a love letter, it was more like a lewd and obscene image. Xiao Haiqing was still a little playful a moment ago, but now she was completely enraged, let alone Su Chu and Gan Jinchen. In their hearts, Jing Yunjiao was clean and cold. Her character was like a person standing on the edge of a cliff, so quiet that she didn't attract dust. However, this so-called love letter was so disgusting that it made them want to vomit. Holding her in his arms and rubbing her wrongly, beside her and under her body, it was simply a fantasy. I've read it. There's no signature at the bottom. Xiao Haiqing gritted her teeth and said, if she knew who wrote this love letter, she would beat him up until he was looking for his teeth on the ground. After Jing Yunjiao finished reading it, her embarrassment turned into anger. Rather than saying it was a confession of love, it was better to say it was a humiliation. Moreover, at this age, most people's love letters were pure and beautiful, unlike this one, which was filled with lust and lust. It was impossible for her not to be angry. Jing Yunjiao had already eaten breakfast. She didn't intend to use the food sent by that person. At this time, Xiao Haiqing was even more depressed. She felt that the food made her sick. Without saying anything, she got up and threw the breakfast into the garbage. It's shameful to waste it. God should just strike me to death. Anyway, it's better than being disgusted to death, Xiao Haiqing said. After a while, Jing Yunjiao put away the so-called love letter. She was not stupid. It was useless to hand this thing to the teacher. After all, they did not know who wrote the love letter. In the end, Teacher Qi would at most give a few warnings in class. In the end, others might think that she was too good at tattling, or even making a fuss over nothing. As for ignoring it, that was even more impossible. Haiqing, why did you throw it away? I really want to eat it. Jing Yunjiao held his breath for a while, causing his face to turn red. Then, he stared at Xiao Haiqing with an embarrassed attitude. Xiao Haiqing was stunned. She wished she could hang a question mark above her head to express her puzzlement. Isn't that? Xiao Haiqing stuttered, but the moment she opened her mouth, She remembered Jing Yunjiao's personality and suddenly laughed out loud. Oh, I get it. Yunjiao, I didn't expect you to have such a strong taste. Her reaction was not as quick as Jing Yunjiao's. Why did he write a love letter? It couldn't be so simple as to express his feelings of longing, right? Jing Yunjiao's bashful expression made her feel a little uncomfortable, but anyone with eyes could tell that Jing Yunjiao's expression meant, like, if that person was from their class, they probably wouldn't just sit by and watch, right? When the time came, wouldn't that person stand up for her? It was just a pity that Jing Yunjiao had to suffer. To make such an expression for such a disgusting thing, it was really a big sacrifice. The only consolation was that Jing Yunjiao's current expression was really too cute. It was the first time she had seen it. Chapter 220. Jing Yunjiao blushed and carefully put away the love letter. Suchu, who was slow to react, felt wronged. She wasn't as smart as Xiao Haiqing, and she wasn't able to read Jing Yunjiao's mind like Xiao Haiqing. She looked at the two's strange behavior and then looked at her cousin, Gan Jinqian, who didn't care. She was stunned. How could her god-cousin like that disgusting classmate who wrote love letters? It couldn't be true, right? Suchu was worried for a few classes. When Jing Yunjiao wasn't around, she carefully moved in front of Xiao Haiqing and grabbed her arm to act cute. Xiao Haiqing, cousin can't really like that disgusting guy, right? Xiao Haiqing was amused. Suchu was really stupid. Gan Jinqian must have guessed Jing Yunjiao's intention, but he didn't explain it to Suchu. He was obviously teasing her. However, looking at Suchu's anxious pout, Xiao Haiqing also showed some mischievous interest. Her eyes flashed, and she spread her hands and said helplessly, I can't help it. Yunjiao likes that kind of thing. You don't know, but Yunjiao is always absent-minded in class. If I didn't remind her in old cheese class, she definitely wouldn't be able to answer the questions. Xiao Haiqing's mouth was full of nonsense. The more she said, the more Suchu's heart jumped. There was only one word in her mind, and that was, it's over. She knew that her cousin was stubborn and had a strong temper. If she liked someone, no one could stop her. What if her cousin was eaten up by that disgusting hooligan? Suchu also received a lot of love letters, but those love letters were different from Jing Yunjiao's. They were simple and clean, and never made her feel disgusted. At this time, Suchu's face was gray. When Jing Yunjiao came back, her eyes were like a poor abandoned animal. She looked at her as if she was hoping that she would stop at the edge of the cliff and turn back to the shore. Xiao Haiqing and Gan Jinqian were very happy. Because of the strong request of these two bad friends, Jing Yunjiao didn't explain. She had to say, looking at Suchu's appearance, her heart was warm and she wanted to laugh. This kind of prank between friends really made people happy. 3 days in a row, food and love letters could be seen in Jing Yunjiao's drawer, each time. It was just that every time, Jing Yunjiao would only look at those breakfasts with pity, acting as if she couldn't bear to eat them and wanted to put them away. Finally, on the 4th morning, Jing Yunjiao saw the name in the love letter. Looking at the name, the corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth curved into a sinister smile. So the grandson who had been disgusting her for the past few days was him. What a surprise. Xiao Haiqing was more concerned about this matter than her. When she saw the name, she immediately became angry. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao holding her back, she would have rushed up and kicked him. I'll do it myself. Jing Yunjiao said coldly, making people feel an inexplicable chill. God knows how nauseous she had been these past few days. Because of these unrestrained words, her appetite hadn't been very good these days. Moreover, she felt weak all over if she didn't do anything to vent her anger. Now that this piece of shit had delivered himself to her door, if she didn't beat him half to death, would she be able to relieve the anger she had been suppressing for the past few days? Early in the morning, Jing Yunjiao's face was colder than the cold winter sun. After putting away the love letter as usual, she stood up with a book that wasn't heavy. She turned around and walked back. Chapter 221. Jing Yunjiao took one step at a time. Her thin and weak yet arrogant figure was extremely eye-catching. Her lips were lightly pursed, as cold as usual, but there seemed to be a faint smile on her face. Although this smile made people shudder, in Jiangxia's eyes, It was something to be happy about. The first love letter was actually just to test Jing Yunjiao. The words used in the letter were all found on the internet when he wrote a love letter to Qiao Hongya. He felt that only those words would be enough to express his feelings towards Qiao Hongya. Since no one would know anyway, he changed the name of the letter and secretly sent it to Jing Yunjiao. He didn't hold much hope, but he didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to be so easy to coax. After that, he carefully copied a few more. He was even a little excited, so the words he used became more daring. Anyway, Jing Yunjiao was an emotional person. The more explicit the words, the more she would like it. Sure enough, the truth was as he expected. Today, he finally wrote his name on it. Yunjiao. Jiang Xia gently opened his mouth. He felt that Jing Yunjiao must have used the excuse of asking him for advice to get close to him. Xiao Hongya dropped out of school, and he Jiasi returned to Ning City. Therefore, Jiang Xia's deskmate was now Tang Zihua. Tang Zihua looked gentle, but in reality, his personality was very cold. He usually didn't care about Jiang Xia, but now that he saw Jing Yunjiao staring at Jiang Xia, he couldn't help but feel strange. Tang Zihua, move aside first, Jing Yunjiao said. Tang Zihua's health wasn't good. If he was affected, she would have to think of a way to treat him. The boy was stunned. He looked behind her and saw Xiao Haiqing teasingly crooking her finger at him. Only then did he get up in confusion and walked over to Xiao Haiqing and the others. Xiao Haiqing, stop her. Cousin can't be going to confess to that disgusting man, right? Su Chu was anxious and said in a low voice. Tang Zihua was shocked when he heard this. What's going on? Disgusting man? Was she referring to Jiang Xia? That's impossible, right? With Jing Yunjiao's personality, how could she fall for someone like Jiang Xia, who he thought was useless and even somewhat thick-skinned? All right, don't say anything and don't ask anything. Just watch, Xiao Haiqing said with a smile. After saying that, they stared at him with their eyes wide open. Yunjiao, please sit down first. Jiang Xia's attitude was very friendly. Jing Yunjiao hadn't spoken to Jiang Xia for quite some time. If it wasn't for his memories from his previous life, he would have forgotten about this person. Jiang Xia was pursuing her? Hee, how could she not know whose idea it was? No matter if it was the previous life or the current life, Jiang Xia's infatuation with Qiao Hongya had never changed. In the previous life, Qiao Hongya only needed to say one word, and Jiang Xia would pester her relentlessly, pretending to be a good man. In this life, his perverted index had actually evolved. They were still in school, yet he could still be so savage. You, stand up. Jing Yunjiao did not listen to him, and said coldly. Jiang Xia frowned in dissatisfaction, but the little bit of expectation in his heart still encouraged him to do as Jing Yunjiao said. Jiang Xia's sunny smile looked extremely warm, but just as he stood up from his seat, he saw Jing Yunjiao holding the textbook in her hand and raised her hand to slap him. Pa! The textbook directly slapped half of Jiang Xia's face red. Using her hand? Jing Yunjiao sneered. She disliked dirty things. She didn't deal with Jiang Xia before because she felt that he was ordered by Qiao Hongya in the previous life. In reality, there wasn't any deep hatred between them. Although she hated him, he didn't have the time to do anything to let her down. So even if he still came looking for trouble in this life, she only punished him lightly and didn't target him like she did Qiao Hongya. But there was a limit to this kind of tolerance. Chapter 222. As soon as Jing Yunjiao made his move, the crisp sound of the slap attracted the attention of all the students. Each and every one of them was shocked beyond words. Jing Yunjiao, are you crazy? Jiang Xia shouted. He felt a burning pain on his face and his ears were ringing. Pa! Jing Yunjiao raised his hand and slapped him again from another angle. In an instant, the red marks on both sides of his face were symmetrical. Jing Yunjiao raised his head and snorted coldly. You'll know in a moment whether I'm crazy or not. After she finished speaking, she slapped Jiang Xia's face like a torrential downpour. The book wasn't thick, but it was extremely painful. The problem was that he was currently trapped in his seat by Jing Yunjiao, so he had no way of getting out. Not long after, a bang sound was heard. Jiang Xia fell to the ground sullenly. He screamed and tried to crawl under the table, but just as he stretched his head out a little, Jing Yunzhao dragged him back like a mouse. Immediately, he was pushed against the wall and all the books on his table were thrown at him. Jing Yunzhao's violent behavior made all the students in the class dumbfounded. Their class hadn't been established for long, but this wasn't the first time they saw Jing Yunzhao hit someone. Who was it last time? It was Jing Yunzhao's adoptive father and Xiao Hongya. They were beaten so badly, but those two deserved it. But what did Jiang Xia do? He actually provoked Jing Yunzhao to this extent. If this continued, wouldn't he be beaten to death? The class monitor, Qi Daong, hurriedly ran over to mediate the fight, but unfortunately, he was pulled over by Xiao Haiqing. Class monitor, are you sure you want to go? I promise you, our Yunzhao is too angry right now. He might not be able to recognize you. If you go in, we won't be able to save you. Xiao Haiqing reminded him with a smile. Qi Daong couldn't help but shiver. He swallowed his saliva and said, Jing Yunzhao, is there a problem with his mental state? Could it be that he would act up regularly? This was too frightening. Look at how badly Jiang Xia was beaten up. No, no. Class monitor Qi Deyong immediately shook his head. Now wasn't the time to be tangled up in this matter. Qi Deyong glanced at the pitiful Jiang Xia, then looked at the fierce Jing Yunzhao. In the next second, he ran towards the office. At this moment, Jiang Xia's face was already swollen beyond recognition. Blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was already in a daze. He used to be quite handsome, but his original appearance was nowhere to be found. Jing Yunzhao did not hold back at all. Every punch and kick left Jiang Xia unable to endure. In less than 2 minutes, Teacher Qi rushed over with a group of people. He was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. When he saw this scene, he almost fainted. Of course, although he was a teacher and was worried about Jiang Xia, as an elder, he was even more worried about Jing Yunzhao. Even if she continued to go to school in the future, there would definitely be a stain on her record. Stop, Jing Yunzhao, stop right now. Teacher Qi roared. Because he used too much strength, he coughed a few times. When Jing Yunzhao heard Teacher Qi's voice, she stopped. She stepped back, took out a tissue from her bag, and wiped her hands and shoes. She looked like a psychopath who had just killed someone and was obsessed with cleanliness. It was simply hair-raising. Teacher Qi panted a few times. Jing Yunzhao walked forward and said, Teacher, don't be angry. I'll cooperate. Whatever you say, I'll do it. Before she took action, she had to think of a way to protect herself. So what if she beat someone up? Jiang Xia asked for it. He was still gasping for breath. Moreover, she would at most make him suffer a little, but she wouldn't hurt his internal organs. She wasn't stupid enough to push herself into a fire pit. Chapter 223. From Teacher Qi's point of view, it was as if he had only seen the real Jing Yunzhao today. As her class representative, Teacher Qi had paid quite a bit of attention to this little girl who had no parents to care for her. However, every time he paid attention to her, he felt very gratified. This was because Jing Yunzhao was very sensible and well-behaved in school. Although she was estranged from many of her classmates, she still had her own circle of friends. She never caused trouble, and although her grades were good, she was not inflexible. However, after seeing her today, this Jing Yunzhao's personality was the complete opposite of her appearance. She was thin and weak and looked very fragile. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that Jing Yunzhao was the one who did it. Jing Yunzhao, what happened to you? Teacher Qi said angrily. Cooperate? At this point in time, was this a problem that could be solved with cooperation? Jiang Xia was beaten up like a pig's head, and the Jiang family would definitely know about it. When that time came, would they let her off? Teacher Qi, I wouldn't hit someone for no reason. In the past, there were so many people spreading rumors about me, and I could still tolerate it. Now that I'm so ruthless towards Jiang Xia, it's enough to prove that Jiang Xia did something that I couldn't control. Since he's already like this, Teacher Qi, I'll have to trouble you to contact the Jiang family. If there's any responsibility, I'll bear it. Jing Yunzhao stood straight, her voice crisp and her attitude decisive. When Teacher Qi heard this, he was so angry that his beard curled up. What should I say? Sai, send Jiang Xia to the infirmary first. Jing Yunzhao, come with me. bear the responsibility? With such a serious injury, compensation was a given. In addition to compensation, the Jiang family would definitely ask Jing Yunjiao to drop out of school. Otherwise, how could they appease their anger? Teacher Qi was fuming. He was already thinking about how to talk to the Jiang family later. If Jing Yunjiao was expelled, it would be a pity. Jing Yunjiao followed Teacher Qi to a place outside the classroom where there was no one else. Teacher Qi then said, "Tell me clearly, why did you beat someone up?" "It's not a big deal. It's just that Jiang Xia disgusted me," Jing Yunjiao replied. "Don't tell me all this nonsense. I want to hear the real reason. Jiang Xia wasn't your deskmate, and he didn't do anything to you. How could he disgust you? Do you have any evidence?" Teacher Qi asked again. "Teacher Qi, I naturally have evidence." Jing Yunjiao took out one of the love letters. The content of this love letter was the least overboard of the three, but when Teacher Qi saw it, his face turned ashen. Teacher Qi was already old. He was a serious person, and his personality was inevitably a little traditional. He had always disliked this kind of young romance. If it was outside the school, he would not be too disgusted, but in this school, Teacher Qi absolutely could not tolerate it. Therefore, when he read the contents of the love letter, he was so angry that he wanted to crawl into a hole and hide his face. This was his student. At such a young age, she actually wrote such explicit things. He had collected many love letters over the years, but this was the first time it was so serious. Fight. She deserved to be beaten. Teacher Qi was so angry that his hands were trembling. Keep it well. When Jiang Xia's parents come later, take this out. The Jiang family should also want to save face. Take this love letter and have a good chat with them. Teacher Qi could not be too explicit. If Teacher Qi had some sympathy for Jiang Xia a second ago, then at this moment, he could not wait to throw this shameless thing out of the school. Chapter 224. Teacher Qi also knew that the world was becoming more and more open. He couldn't possibly use the old rules to restrict these students. But this Jiang Xia was too much. If the Jiang family didn't give up and insisted on finding trouble with Jing Yunjiao, then as a teacher, he had the right to prevent students like Jiang Xia from continuing to stay in the class. "Thank you, teacher," Jing Yunjiao said sincerely to Teacher Qi. Although she didn't have good luck with her classmates, she had good luck with her elders. So what if she didn't have parents? She received a lot of benefits. Teacher Qi sighed and went back to inform the Jiang family's parents. Jiang Xia was sent to the infirmary, while Jing Yunjiao continued with her lessons. After one lesson, a couple appeared at the entrance of the classroom. At this time, Jing Yunjiao was also called out. Jing Yunjiao had just stepped out of the classroom when the man raised his hand to slap her. Jing Yunjiao's gaze turned cold, and he directly clamped down on the man's wrist. Subordinates should follow the example of their superiors. I finally know why Jiang Xia is like that. The man obviously didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to be so righteous. His expression became worse and worse. Jiang Xia's mother was a beautiful woman. She gave people a feeling of arrogance. "I've heard my son mention you before. Jing Yunjiao, right? I heard that this student of yours has always been restless. He messes around outside and likes to accuse others. I thought it was just a child playing around and didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect you to be so vicious and beat my son to such a state," the woman said. At this time, Jiang Xia's injury had already been bandaged. He hid behind the couple with a cowardly look. "Teacher Qi, I know this isn't something a teacher can handle, so I've already contacted your head teacher. If you don't expel this Jing Yunjiao today, don't blame me for making a big deal out of this," Father Jiang said angrily. The Jiang family was a relatively wealthy family. Jiang Xia's father opened a tea house in the county. The environment was tranquil, so the business was pretty good. Jiang Xia's mother opened a clothing store in the busiest commercial street in Huaning County. Although it wasn't a big business, the annual income wasn't low. In the tea house opened by Father Jiang, there were usually some big shots who liked peace and quiet who would go to take care of business. Over time, he also got to know quite a few capable people, so when he spoke, he was very confident. Jing Yunjiao let go of his hand, but at this time, he just calmly watched all of this. Since the dean was coming, he would just have to wait. After a while, the entrance of Class 1 became lively. The director was worried that it would cause a bad influence, so he invited them into the office. Even though Jing Yunzhao had no parents and no backing, she was still the undisputed #1 in the whole school. She represented the school in all kinds of competitions and won awards. She could definitely be called the face of the school. This teaching director wasn't a muddle-headed person. He still wanted to put the truth first. Director, what else is there to talk about? Let her parents compensate and then expel her from school. Father Jiang had a stomach full of anger. Teacher Qi's face was stern. Jing Yunzhao didn't hit people for no reason. According to you, it's reasonable for her to hit people? What kind of teacher are you? You're always biased. I know Jing Yunzhao's grades are good, but our Jiang Xia isn't a bad child who can't be helped. Now that Jing Yunzhao made a mistake, why should he protect her? Mother Jiang was furious. Jiang Xia's mother's voice was very shrill, so Teacher Qi didn't have a chance to interrupt. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. At this time, Jing Yunzhao took out the 3 letters that she had prepared. Chapter 225. The Jiang family's parents were stunned for a moment. They were a little confused, but when they saw the red heart drawn on the letter and recalled what their son had said to them before, they instantly understood. This was the love letter their son had written to Jing Yunzhao. Isn't it just a love letter? Who hasn't had their first awakening of love when they were in school? If everyone used violence to solve problems like you, wouldn't the school be in chaos? Moreover, our Jiang Xia was just joking with you. Why don't you take a look at your own status? You're just an uneducated child with no parents. How can our Jiang Xia like you? Mother Jiang scolded. Jing Yunzhao wasn't in a hurry. After she finished scolding, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "It seems like your family thinks that this matter isn't important. All right then, I agree to pay the compensation and transfer schools. However, at the same time, I will upload these 3 letters online and make the truth public. What do you think?" Teacher Qi originally thought that there was only 1 letter. Now that he saw 3, he was even more annoyed. However, Jiang Xia's parents sneered and said, "Make it public then. Who hasn't written a love letter before? It was just a few confession letters. Could it be that there was something shameful inside?" No matter what, this Jing Yunzhao definitely couldn't be in the same school as their son. Who cares if she transferred or dropped out? Moreover, they could just wait until she transferred and talk to her new school's leader. Who knows, she might be kicked out in the blink of an eye. No, you can't make it public. Just as Jiang Xia's parents were feeling smug, he suddenly shouted from behind them. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. "Son, are you okay?" Mother Jiang immediately asked out of concern. Her son was just too kind. She really didn't understand why the school would protect an uncivilized wild girl like Jing Yunzhao. Although she was pretty, she didn't have a good family background or character. Even if she got into a university, she might not have the money to go. Even if she did go to university, she might not be successful. Who knows, she might even become a rich man's mistress. What was the point of nurturing her? Unlike her son, who was good at everything. Jiang Xia waved his hand and said anxiously, "Mom, we can't let her make the love letter public, son. You are too soft-hearted. If she wants to go public, then go public. What does it matter? Anyway, we just want her to pay up and make sure she can't stay in this school anymore. A rat's dropping spoil the whole pot of porridge. How can mother be at ease if a person like her is in the same school as you?" Mother Jiang earnestly advised. Hearing his mother's words, Jiang Xia's face turned red, not knowing what to do. I can't let others see what I've written." Jiang Xia choked. Father Jiang snorted. "You're a real man. You're just chasing after a woman and writing some words of love. Others won't say anything if they see it." Jing Yunzhao had a mocking look on his face. If it was just an ordinary love letter, people would only admire it or gossip about it. Moreover, Jiang Xia was still young, so no one would take this kind of thing to heart. But Jiang Xia's love letter was different. Not to mention children, even adults wouldn't be able to accept it. The first letter was at least a little taboo, and didn't dare to be too direct. But after that, especially the last one, the whole letter was filled with color. It was a long speech, and was even more serious than those articles that were banned from reading online. Not only that, His name was signed at the bottom. Jiang Xia's face was ashen. He suddenly grabbed his father's clothes and hurriedly said, "Dad, you can't make it public. If others find out, I'll really be finished." Chapter 226. Jiang Xia's shout stunned the Jiang family's parents. "Son, do you really like this Jing Yunjiao?" Mother Jiang asked in a daze. Naturally, she didn't think that there was anything shameful in her son's love letter. After all, in her heart, her son was modest, polite, cultured, and refined. He had good grades and a good personality. He was even the class monitor in the past. Although he wasn't anymore, he was still quite popular. A love letter written by such a smart and sensible child would definitely be of high standard. Because of this, his parents didn't have any intention of stopping the release of the love letter. But since her son was so against it, it meant that he was either shy or he really liked Jing Yunjiao. But if that was the case, her son definitely wouldn't be willing to let Jing Yunjiao drop out or transfer schools. Jiang Xia's expression was ugly. After holding it in for a long time, he said, "This is what I wrote for her. I don't want others to see it." Mother Jiang had an expression that said, as expected, "Son, if you insist on getting into a relationship at such a young age, I won't object. But you have to open your eyes and look for one, right? Look at this Jing Yunjiao. What redeeming qualities does he have? This kind of person will only harm you." Mother Jiang said bitterly. Father Jiang was also very unhappy. After all, this Jing Yunjiao didn't have any intention of respecting his elders. He was too arrogant and unruly. At this moment, Teacher Qi was so angry that he had a headache. "He's simply rotten wood that can't be carved. This child's own writing isn't clean," and he actually pushed the blame to Jing Yunjiao. "Headmaster, I really can't teach a child with this kind of character." It was said that parents were the first teachers of their children. This was absolutely true. He usually didn't like this Jiang Xia. The main reason was that this child's character wasn't very good. Although his grades were good, he was too arrogant. He seemed humble, but in reality, he was more or less self-righteous. For example, in class, he would often say things that were beneficial to himself. Also, behind his back, he liked to badmouth other students. Not all teachers like snitching students, especially someone like Jiang Xia. His nephew was the class monitor of this class, so he had a better understanding of the situation in the class. When he returned home, he would more or less spill the beans, such as who had a good relationship with whom, and what kind of problems had befallen a classmate. From his nephew, he had heard a lot about Jiang Xia making friends everywhere, but in reality, Jiang Xia had always mentioned the faults of those friends in front of him. One set of words in front of him, and another set behind his back. At such a young age, he had already learned to be two-faced. How could he possibly like such a student? At this moment, Teacher Qi was angrily telling the truth. The Jiang parents were confused. "Teacher Qi, what do you mean by this?" Father Jiang immediately asked. "Just take a look for yourselves." Teacher Qi pointed at the love letter and said angrily. After Jing Yunjiao hit Jiang Xia, she made a copy of the 3 love letters in her office to prevent this family from acting shamelessly. She was currently holding the original in her hand and was handing over a copy of the letter to Jiang Xia. The 3 love letters were passed around by the director and the Jiang family's parents. The director's face alternated between red and green as he looked at the letter. He couldn't describe what he was feeling in his heart. The Jiang parents' faces also changed greatly. Mother Jiang shook her head repeatedly. "This is definitely not written by my son. Her son was so obedient and sensible. How could he write something like this? Whether it's true or not, you can ask your son." Jing Yunjiao shouted coldly. Jiang Xia's body trembled. When he wrote the letter, he didn't think that there would be such a day. At first, he didn't dare to write his name. However, after confirming that Jing Yunjiao liked it, he felt a sense of excitement in his heart, so he signed his name. But now, it seemed that Jing Yunjiao was purposely tricking him. Chapter 227. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang looked at their son suspiciously. They thought that he would deny it, but now, seeing his guilty and scared face, they suddenly understood. No wonder he wouldn't let Jing Yunjiao spread this love letter no matter what. "What do you want?" Jing Yunjiao, although my son wrote something he shouldn't have, you shouldn't have beaten him up like this. Mr. Jiang was still very rational. He knew that he couldn't force things at this time. It was best for both sides to reconcile, otherwise, no one would benefit. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang, weren't you scolding and scolding me just now? What's wrong? Why are you suddenly being reasonable now? Jing Yunjiao snorted. When we saw Xiao Xia being beaten up like this, of course we were anxious. Jing Yunjiao, both sides are at fault here. Mr. Jiang continued. When Jiang Xia's father first arrived at school, his face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao blocking him with her hand, she would have definitely been slapped by this man. After causing a ruckus, now he wants to solve the problem peacefully? It was too late. Jing Yunjiao wasn't worried about compensation or expulsion. She had a reason for beating him up and held the moral high ground. As long as this love letter was spread, the one who would be criticized would definitely be Jiang Xia. Perhaps others would even praise her for resisting such a malicious pursuit. Jing Yunjiao held the love letter in his hand and flipped it back and forth. With a casual expression, he said, I don't think I did anything wrong. If I were to do it again, I would hit him even harder. I'm still an underage child. Your family's Jiang Xia gave me such a love letter. That's a visual insult. I feel that my soul has suffered a huge blow. From today onwards, I will be disgusted with men because of this. I have a feeling that I don't want to have any contact with men for the rest of my life. Therefore, I feel that this matter has seriously affected my future life. Who knows, I might not even be able to marry and have children like normal people. Oh, right? When he handed over the love letter, my deskmates and friends didn't know that there was such a filthy thing inside. So everyone read it together. They must have suffered a huge blow. Also, with so many people reading this love letter, does this count as spreading obscenity? Jing Yunjiao's words were spoken in a soft and gentle tone, but they were like a 1,000-pound hammer that smashed into the hearts of the Jiang family members. Father Jiang's face was ashen. He knew very well what the consequences would be if others found out that his son had written such a thing. If things got out of hand, the school would definitely not tolerate him. Now was the era of the rise of the internet. Once the news spread on the internet, the impact would be even more serious. In the future, no matter where his son went, he would be guided by others. It would be very difficult for him to find a good school to continue his studies. Moreover, even his father felt that the things he had written were somewhat unacceptable, let alone others. Even if it was normal for a person to express it in such a way, in the eyes of others in the future, Jiang Xia would be seen as a mentally unhealthy child. They might even think that he was a pervert. Therefore, this matter could be either light or heavy. Everything depended on Jing Yunjiao's attitude. Jing Yunjiao, what are you trying to do? Just say it all at once. What will it take for you to return this love letter to us? Father Jiang took a deep breath and tried his best to restrain his anger as he spoke to Jing Yunjiao. At this moment, he had no choice but to beg. Mother Jiang felt the contrast between reality and reality. Her body swayed and her eyes turned red. The gaze she used to look at Jing Yunjiao was filled with hatred and anger. She really felt like she was holding back her anger. It was clearly this wild brat who seduced her son to write such a thing and even beat him until he was beyond recognition. Why was it that in the end, not only did she not receive any punishment, she even had to turn around and beg for forgiveness? Chapter 228. Jing Yunjiao leisurely folded the love letter and put it in his pocket. He looked up at the family of three. It's not impossible to get this love letter, Jing Yunjiao said bluntly. He paused and continued, but as long as you agree to my request, say it. Father Jiang gritted his teeth. Jiang Xia, I never believed that you really liked me, so please tell me the truth. Why did you write me a love letter? Jing Yunjiao asked, even though he already knew the answer. Jiang Xia's face paled. Xiao Hongye's face flashed across his mind. She was so gentle and pitiful. She would never be as aggressive as Jing Yunjiao, beating him up like a madman. He turned his head away and refused to say anything. Look, your precious son is not cooperating at all. Jing Yunjiao laughed, but there was an inexplicable chill in his laughter that made people unable to relax. Father Jiang was also angry. He was in the tea house business, and his living environment was relatively quiet. He boasted that his character was different from others, unlike those businessmen in other industries who reeked of money. In his eyes, he was a scholarly businessman, but now he was being slapped in the face by his son. Slap. He slapped Jiang Xia's head. You unfilial son. Are you trying to anger me to death? Hurry up and say it. Hearing Jing Yunzhao's words, his son's way of doing things was taught by someone else. That person was simply despicable. If he knew who that person was, he would definitely not let him off. Jiang Xia was stunned for a moment. He had always been pampered since he was young. His parents had never treated him like this, but at the same time, he felt scared. He thought for a while and said softly, It's Xiao Hongya. I like Xiao Hongya. Jing Yunzhao, the one I like has always been Xiao Hongya, but she told me that you like me. She said that she had let you down, so she begged me to pursue you. If I don't pursue you, she will ignore me in the future. When he said this, Jiang Xia's father wished he could kick his stupid son to death. He pursued her just because she asked him to? Did he have any guts? Also, the other party obviously looked down on his son and even deliberately played with him. Jiang Xia, on the other hand, went along with her wishes. Idiot. Stupid donkey. You heard that? Jing Yunzhao laughed mockingly. 2 seconds later, he looked at Father Jiang and said directly, Your son was instructed by someone to cheat on my feelings. Isn't that right? The corners of Mr. Jiang's mouth twitched, and he felt aggrieved. Compensate me. Jing Yunzhao threw down another 3 words. Jing Yunzhao's matter-of-fact attitude couldn't help but remind people of the arrogance of Father and Mother Jiang when they first arrived at school. This was clearly revenge. Teacher Qi didn't know what to say. Should she let people off whenever possible? Although he was old, he wasn't that stupid. Fortunately, this girl was smart and imposing. Otherwise, such a good seedling would be gone. As for Jiang Xia, although he was also a seedling, his roots were spoiled. How much do you want? Father Jiang choked, and Mother Jiang felt her head buzzing. How much do I need? Don't worry, it's not a lot. 50,000 yuan for psychological damage. Also, I'll let bygones be bygones. As for this love letter, you guys decide what to do with it. With such good literary talent, it can be considered an epic work. How much would it be worth in the market? Oh, right. Don't say that I'm extorting you. I'm a coward and can't stand being scared. Jing Yunzhao said matter-of-factly, as if he wasn't threatening anyone. The head of teaching was a little confused. He didn't know if he should stop this matter. After all, this was indeed extortion. But if he really stopped it, it was hard to say if Jing Yunzhao would resent him. In any case, the Jiang family would definitely hate him to death. Also, it was best if this matter could be resolved perfectly. Otherwise, if word got out, it wouldn't be good for the school. Chapter 229. Settling this in private was beneficial to both parties. The Jiang family's parents gritted their teeth. They were angry at Jing Yunzhao for asking for an exorbitant price, but they were even angrier that Jiang Xia was caught red-handed. If Jiang Xia didn't write his name, then as long as they didn't admit it, these 3 letters wouldn't have anything to do with them. Now, not only did they fail to get the person, they even lost their own lives. The Jiang family's parents were frustrated, and as the person involved, Jiang Xia's mood was even worse. He wasn't stupid. At first, he didn't even think of writing his name. If it wasn't for Jing Yunzhao's happy face, he wouldn't have been fooled. Moreover, he didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to be so daring. He actually beat him up in front of everyone and even took this thing out to threaten him. After all, if this love letter were to spread, he would be finished, but Jing Yunzhao's reputation wouldn't be any better. However, he didn't know that Jing Yunzhao was already prepared for a long battle. She was also surprised that Jiang Xia couldn't help but confess after 3 days. However, it wasn't hard to understand. Jiang Xia had always been self-righteous. Not only was he narcissistic, he also liked to judge others by his own standards. When he saw how she looked when she received the love letter, he probably felt that his literary charm was irresistible. At this moment, the Jiang family's parents were hesitant. After a while, they finally made up their minds. Jing Yunzhao, don't be too greedy. 50,000 yuan for psychological damage is too much. We can't agree to it. How about this? We'll give you a total of 30,000 yuan. Hand over the love letter, Father Jiang said. The Jiang family didn't lack money, but this money shouldn't be spent like this. Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. Impossible. Don't be greedy. Otherwise, you won't get a single cent. Father Jiang said angrily, whether I can get this money or not isn't that important to me. However, it's different for your son. I still have to go to class, so I can only give you 10 minutes to consider. If you still aren't willing, then forget it, Jing Yunzhao said. Father Jiang looked like he wanted to eat Jing Yunzhao alive. He was angry and pained. He was a businessman. How could he not understand Jing Yunzhao's intentions? 50,000 yuan was just compensation for emotional distress. If she wanted the love letter, she would have to give her 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan was enough for Jiang Xia to go to a good school in Ning City. However, there was no way to restore his reputation. Even after a few years or decades, this love letter would become something that Jiang Xia would be ashamed to mention. When Father Jiang saw his son's terrified and pleading gaze, no matter how angry he was in his heart, he could only swallow that sullen feeling. In the end, he said with a sullen face, 100,000 yuan at most. If you're still unwilling, then we'll go our separate ways. I'll bring my son to get his injuries examined. When the time comes, you'll be the one to compensate. Deal. Jing Yunzhao smiled cheerfully. She had earned 100,000 for nothing and even beat up Jiang Xia. She had really profited. After both parties had agreed, Jing Yunzhao didn't hand over the love letter immediately. Instead, she waited for the Jiang family's parents to transfer the money to her before making them sign a guarantee that Jiang Xia's injury had nothing to do with her and that they wouldn't hold her responsible. Only then did she give up. After the Jiang family's parents received the love letter, they burned it on the spot just in case. Only then did they angrily bring Jiang Xia home to recuperate. This family of three was simply sullen to the extreme, especially when they saw how steady Jing Yunzhao was in protecting their interests. They felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on their hearts. It was unbearable. The Jiang family's parents couldn't vent their anger on their son. Naturally, they found Xiao Hongye. Chapter 230. Xiao Family. Xiao Weiman sat crookedly in front of the dining table. He picked up a peanut and threw it into his mouth, chewing loudly. His breath reeked of alcohol. Xiao Hongye was tidying up her dried clothes. Seeing her somewhat rough fingers, she curled her lips. She really didn't know when this kind of life would end. There were many girls in town who dropped out of school early. Although they weren't old, there were still some who got married a few years later. Today, her father looked at her strangely. She didn't know what he was thinking. While she was busy, Xiao Weiman received a phone call. Suddenly, he smiled apologetically. After hanging up, he suddenly rushed into her room. Quickly go and prepare a few new dishes. Also, change your clothes. There will be guests coming later. Don't embarrass me. Xiao Weiman threw down a sentence that didn't allow any rebuttal. Xiao Hongye was very smart. When she was alone with Xiao Weiman at home, she never dared to resist. She knew what kind of person her father was. She wasn't Xiao Zizhou. She wasn't a man. She didn't have the qualifications for Xiao Weiman to be polite and gentle to her. Xiao Hongye obediently prepared a few dishes according to Xiao Weiman's request. She changed into her beautiful clothes. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. The person who entered was a middle-aged man about the same age as Xiao Weiman. His body of fat piled up his eyes into slits. His face was somewhat pockmarked, and his smile was lewd. Xiao Hongye shuddered. She already understood what Xiao Weiman wanted to do. Xiao Weiman always felt that she was the one who ruined the Xiao family's business, so he didn't like her at all. In addition, her reputation wasn't good now. If she didn't carefully avoid him, who knows how many times she would have been beaten by him. He had previously said that since she didn't want to go to school, then she should get married early and have children. However, he knew that there wasn't a single person in town who would take a fancy to her. So he had always been just saying it. But now that this man suddenly appeared, it was obvious that Xiao Weiman found him. The other party looked at her with an expression that said he was determined to have her. Xiao Weiman was her biological father. She wasn't Jing Yunzhao, that bastard child. How could he treat her like this? Quick, pour some wine for your brother Qian. Xiao Weiman snorted. Brother Qian? Xiao Hongye was extremely uncomfortable. This person was obviously old enough to be her father. That man with the surname Qian sat down and waited for Xiao Hongye to come forward with a look of enjoyment. Xiao Hongye's legs felt like they were filled with lead. She dawdled for a long time before she finally walked over. Just as she stepped forward, that man with the surname Qian pinched her waist. Of Hongye's, Xiao Hongye. Big brother, Xiao's. Of Xiao, brother Xiao. Of Xiao Weiman. The man with the surname Qian said, then changed his tone and said, this time, I'll give you a share of the ship. Invest some money in it, and I'll definitely not forget about you when we make money. Our Ningxiang town is surrounded by mountains and rivers, and the water is filled with gold. Many people are eagerly waiting to buy our ship. Don't worry, we'll make huge profits with a small investment. With one sentence, Xiao Hongye understood. Xiao Weiman was going crazy thinking about money. Every 2 to 3 days, he would think about investing. He had already lost a lot of money. Now, in order to get involved in the business of the big ship, he actually sold her. Although she was protected by the law at her age, no one cared about this kind of small town. Her former junior high school classmates even held banquets and got married right after school. But what should she do now? Why couldn't she follow this old man for money that didn't belong to her? Xiao Hongye's heart was in a mess. Looking at the 2 men in front of her drinking wine, she suddenly thought of someone. Jiang Xia. Jiang Xia had deep feelings for her. He would definitely help her. Chapter 231. Xiao Hongye wasn't just thinking about it. She clenched her teeth and kept pouring wine into their mouths. Not long after, Xiao Weiman and Qian Xia were already drunk and unconscious. In the next moment, she rummaged through their bodies and found more than $1,000. She took the money and rushed out of the house without another word, heading straight for the county. Coincidentally, right after Xiao Hongye left, Jiang Xia's parents found the Xiao family. Xiao Hongye didn't close the door when she left, so the Jiang family's parents directly walked in. They happened to see 2 grown men lying drunk on the table, and all the excuses they had prepared to say now couldn't come out at all. Especially after seeing such a scene, they felt that this family must be scoundrels. They didn't want to cause trouble, so they turned around and headed back to the county. Xiao Hongye was the white moonlight in Jiang Xia's heart. When he received Xiao Hongye's call for help, he agreed without thinking. With an unrecognizable face, he rented a house near the Jiang family. The house's environment wasn't very good, and it was very remote and hard to find. It was just a house, and it was a private house. He didn't need any documents, and didn't even need to sign a contract. A month's rent was less than $200. Jiang Xia, who was brought home to recuperate, was still a little sad. But now that Xiao Hongye appeared, he became proud again. Although the house wasn't good and couldn't be considered a golden house to hide a mistress, he still had a feeling that Xiao Hongye belonged to him from now on. He became high-spirited. He even wanted to tell Xiao Hongye that when he wrote those love letters, he only thought of Xiao Hongye. It was a pity that the love letters were burned. Otherwise, he really wanted to let Xiao Hongye see them. Xiao Hongye's departure directly tricked Xiao Weiman. If that Qian Xia didn't get the little girl he liked, then it was fine. But his wallet was emptied, so he made a fuss. For the sake of his great investment, Xiao Weiman naturally coaxed him like he was his ancestor. Not only did he return the money, he also repeatedly promised that he would definitely send Xiao Hongye over to him. Only then did he understand. However, Xiao Hongye never appeared. Xiao Weiman had no choice but to panic. He thought about it and called the police. A missing person was considered a big matter. Some people in the town who knew Xiao Hongye had provided clues, so after some investigation, they could only confirm that Xiao Hongye had gone to the county town. As for where she went, they could only slowly search for it. Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Hongye's relationship wasn't shallow, so the police naturally found her. Ever since his rebirth, Jing Yunzhao had seen the police several times. He couldn't help but find it ridiculous. However, the faces of these police officers were much better than those prison guards. Someone saw you and Xiao Hongye meet with their own eyes, but she disappeared afterwards. Jing Yunzhao, we hope that you can cooperate with the investigation. As long as you tell us the truth and don't break the law, we won't make things difficult for you. The policeman's face was solemn. Jing Yunjiao wanted to cry but had no tears. This was simply an unexpected disaster. But after thinking about it, Jing Yunjiao immediately opened her mouth. Who said so? Jiang Xia or Qiao Zizhou. Jiang Xia was no longer her classmate. He rested at home for a few days before coming to class. However, he didn't look like he had suffered a setback. As for Qiao Zizhou, Jing Yunjiao rarely saw this former brother of hers. He was different from Qiao Hongye. He was a bit of a male chauvinist and didn't care about women at all. No matter how much she quarreled with Qiao Hongye, Qiao Zizhou would only look at her with disdain. In the past, other than mocking and ridiculing her or forcing her to do some housework, he didn't do anything in secret. Jing Yunjiao knew that it wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he didn't like it. Chapter 232. After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she looked at the policeman's expression and knew that she had guessed correctly. As expected, it was one of these two people. It couldn't be Qiao Zizhou. He was a person who cared about his face, so it could only be Jiang Xia. However, thinking about Jiang Xia's condition these few days, Jing Yunjiao laughed faintly. Can you believe Jiang Xia's words? Uncle Policeman, I advise you to investigate Jiang Xia. He and Qiao Hongye have a close relationship. If Qiao Hongye ran away from home, the person most likely to seek shelter from is him. You really don't know where Qiao Hongye went? The policeman still didn't believe her. That's right, Jing Yunjiao confirmed. Just as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, a couple walked up the stairs. When they saw the policeman standing in front of Jing Yunjiao, they immediately rushed up. What's going on? Why are you looking for our family's eldest daughter? She wouldn't commit a crime. Wang Xianfang immediately said. Jing Taijun's eyebrows sank. He quickly passed a few cigarettes over. Children don't know any better. If there's any problem, you can talk to us adults. Don't worry, we're just here to understand the situation. It's not that there's a problem with this child. Little classmate, no matter what, if you have any news, you have to inform us immediately. It's not safe for Qiao Hongye to be alone outside. You two used to be sisters, so you should help if you can, right? The policeman politely reminded her. After that, he didn't say anything else. Jing Yunjiao looked at the file in Jing Taijun's hand and looked at his attitude. She didn't need to look at it to know the result of the test. The couple waited outside for a while. After school in the afternoon, Jing Yunjiao accompanied the two to a nearby restaurant. She opened the file and took a look. Indeed, it was in accordance with the law of heredity. The probability of paternity was greater than 0. 99.99. This also meant that they were father and daughter. Jing Yunjiao had mixed feelings for a moment. She had thought of this result before, but when she saw it, she didn't know how to face it, especially when she thought of how miserable she had been in her previous life. Now that she saw them, she felt even more speechless. A child who was abandoned. That was not a nice word to use. Xiaoyun, it's all good now. Our family is finally reunited. You don't know how much Mom cried all these years. Wang Xinfang said as she tugged on Jing Yunjiao's hand. Jing Yunjiao's hand was unusually cold. If this was in her previous life, she would definitely cry tears of joy and go crazy because the Qiao family had treated her too badly, so badly that it made her feel despair. However, in this life, she had experienced all the pain and had even experienced death. The familial love at this time was too late for her and was too unfamiliar to her. But no matter what, it was impossible to deny that they were blood-related. Jing Yunjiao raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. He wanted to change his words, but when the word reached his mouth, it was abnormally heavy and he couldn't say it at all. It was a little awkward for a moment. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be afraid if you can't call it out now, Wang Xinfang said quickly. After saying this, the couple looked at each other. After a few seconds, Jing Taijun opened his mouth again. Xiaoyun, since we have recognized each other, I think you should accompany Mom and Dad back to Shuicheng village. On one hand, you can visit the old ancestor's grave and pay your respects. On the other hand, there are still a few younger siblings in this family. You should meet them, right? Of course. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Tomorrow, I will ask the teacher for a leave of absence. When he said this, the two people opposite him were extremely happy. In addition, they didn't say anything during the meal. Jing Yunjiao still had classes in the afternoon and took the opportunity to escape. She couldn't bear the gaze of this pair of parents. But once she left, Wang Xinfeng let out a sigh of relief. I have never seen such a difficult brat. She is still like this after finding her biological parents. If I were her real parents, I would beat her to death. Chapter 233. Her voice was soft, as if she hadn't said anything. Jing Taijun frowned. Don't give me that. This little girl is amenable to coaxing but not coercion. You didn't see how cold she was at the hospital that day. I saw it. As long as we side with her, she will treat us as her biological parents sooner or later. When that time comes, we will benefit a lot. I know. Wang Xinfeng nodded repeatedly. Don't say that in the future. Just treat her as our family's eldest daughter. Jing Taijun added. Wang Xinfeng continued to agree. Jing Yunjiao had already arrived at school. Naturally, she didn't see this scene. How is it? Are they your biological parents? As soon as Jing Yunjiao returned to class, Xiao Haiqing immediately asked her. This matter had troubled them for many days. They hoped that Jing Yunjiao would find her biological parents, but at the same time, they were a little afraid. Because Jing Yunjiao's previous life was too difficult. What if her biological parents were more terrifying than her adoptive parents? Wouldn't that be jumping into a fire pit? They didn't mean to think of people as bad, but Jing Yunjiao was different. She was an abandoned orphan. How good could parents who couldn't even protect their child be? Biological. Jing Yunjiao said in a muffled voice. Xiao Haiqing was speechless. That's too much of a coincidence. But Yunjiao, didn't they say anything? They must take you to see your 3 younger siblings, right? We'll go tomorrow morning. I'll tell Teacher Qi later. Jing Yunjiao replied. Her voice was listless. Xiao Haiqing and Suchu could naturally feel it. Finding her biological parents was a happy thing, but the premise was that she still had expectations for them. At this time, the two didn't dare to say much. They could only keep quiet and let Jing Yunjiao calm down alone. This result made Jing Yunjiao confused for a long time, because she found that she could easily face strangers, but she was a little helpless when it came to people who were related by blood. She couldn't get close to them, but at the same time, she couldn't resist them. This feeling was too torturous. He spent the whole afternoon sorting out his thoughts. When he returned to the space at night, the fresh medicinal fragrance seemed to have cleared his mind. Xiao Lan flopped around in front of her. It seemed to have sensed her emotions and was very obedient today. Outside, a phone rang. She heaved a sigh of relief and left the space. When she saw Li Xiaoyun's name, she was stunned for a moment. This person had been gone for so long, but he finally remembered to contact her? Hey. Jing Yunjiao adjusted his breathing. As soon as he picked up, a magnetic voice came through. What's wrong? Not in a good mood? How did you know? Jing Yunjiao paused. She had only said one word, but Li Xiaoyun actually felt that her mood was not right. Li Xiaoyun smiled gently. Even if he didn't see his expression at this time, Jing Yunjiao could guess that he must be very arrogant. Sure enough, he only heard him snort with some slight pride, as if everything was in his hands. In the past, when you picked up my call, the first thing you said was 3 words. When he said that, Jing Yunjiao thought about it. It seemed that he was right. Every time she saw Li Xiaoyun's call, she subconsciously became nervous and guarded. So when she opened her mouth, she directly asked him, "What's the matter?" But this time, it was obviously too calm. However, when he said that, Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but laugh and relax a little. I didn't expect Li Xiaoyun to be so considerate. It really surprised me. But thank you. Now I'm a little happier. Something happened before, but now it seemed to be better. That's not the attitude you should have when thanking someone. Besides, compared to your thanks, I'm more interested in knowing what the reason for your unhappiness is. Li Xiaoyun's voice was firm. Clearly, he was determined to get to the bottom of this. Chapter 234. Jing Yunjiao didn't know that Li Xiaoyun was already guessing at this time. Jing Yunjiao did have a lot of trouble around her, especially that bastard of an adoptive father. However, when he was in Huaning County, he had already intervened and taught him a lesson. In addition, he had also destroyed the Qiao family's factory. He could guarantee that no matter what Qiao Weiman did in the future, he wouldn't be able to get any profits. However, after all, it was Jing Yunzhao's family matter. It wasn't good for him to get involved too obviously. Otherwise, Qiao Weiman would be a dead man now. Although Qiao Weiman was really annoying, Jing Yunzhao wasn't someone to be trifled with. Therefore, her ups and downs in mood wouldn't be related to that man. As for that sister who wasn't related by blood, that was even more impossible. He had investigated. Although the other party was scheming, it was very difficult for her to threaten Jing Yunzhao at present. At this time, Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips and was at a loss for words. After a while, Jing Yunzhao suddenly said with a smile, "Private matter, young Master Li. I don't seem to want to satisfy your curiosity right now." "You're really—" Li Xiaoyun squeezed out a few words from between his teeth, looking like he was about to explode. However, the next second, he suddenly smiled and said, "Jing Yunzhao, you're really getting cuter by the day. This young master will know even if you don't say it. However, I'm afraid the consequences will be a little more serious when the time comes." Li Xiaoyun had said the same words before. For example, when they were in the hospital, Li Xiaoyun would always threaten her as if the consequences of offending him were unimaginable. However, so far, everything was still the same. Li Xiaoyun was a young master with a bad temper. He would occasionally flip out. As for this temperament, it was sometimes good and sometimes bad. However, in her opinion, the threat was not high. Li Xiaoyun was obviously used to Jing Yunzhao, not paying attention to his words. He still continued to chat with Jing Yunzhao. The two of them didn't talk much each time. However, the strange thing was that time seemed to pass very quickly. Moreover, Jing Yunzhao would become more rational. This person could easily evoke her thoughts. Therefore, after hanging up the phone, Jing Yunzhao's entire person calmed down. She even somewhat thought it through. The previous life was not this life. Let nature take its course. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao first went to buy a few gifts, then carried 2 bottles of wine and some fruits to Water Village. This small village was very remote and could be considered the village with the least amount of development in Huaning County. When Jing Yunzhao arrived at the station, she gave Jing Taijun a call. Not long after, Jing Taijun sat in a rented car and brought her to the Jing family. There was a large courtyard and 5 bungalows. There were 2 bicycles in the yard, and as soon as they entered the gate, they could see the central room. It was a little gloomy, and there was no sunlight. Wang Xinfang was preparing the dishes, and there were 3 children standing in the yard. As soon as she arrived, there were a lot of people passing by and looking at her. She originally thought that she would still be a little uneasy, but after chatting with Li Xiaoyun yesterday, her mood didn't fluctuate at all. She walked over and handed the gifts she had prepared to the 3 children. "Your big sister?" However, before she could speak, the youngest boy spoke first. The 10-year-old child's voice was tender, but his eyes were scrutinizing, as if he was the most important person in the world. After he took the gifts, he looked at the 2 older sisters and snorted, "These are all for me, right?" Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows. She hated naughty children, especially uncivilized and insensible naughty children. 10 years old, he wasn't young. Sure enough, he was raised to favor boys over girls, wasn't he? No. Jing Yunzhao's tone was indifferent. "Your gifts are in your hands, nothing else." Chapter 235. When Jing Yunzhao opened his mouth, the 2 girls were obviously much happier. They quickly hugged the things in their hands, afraid that their little brother would snatch them away. The gift was very simple, 2 plush toys and a remote-controlled car. Jing Yunzhao didn't think that this little brother would still be reluctant to part with the plush toys after getting the car. The little boy glared at Jing Yunzhao and unhappily walked in front of Wang Xinfang. He didn't make a fuss and said, "Mom, I want those 2 plush toys." Wang Xinfang put down the things in her hands, looked at the children, and then looked at Jing Yunzhao. She looked embarrassed. "Your big sister bought those for your 2nd and 3rd sisters. Don't make a fuss," Wang Xinfang said. Her eyes were full of love. Jing Yunzhao could see that if she wasn't present, she would have directly given all the toys to this son. The Jing family had 3 children. The second sister was called Jing Xiu, the third sister was called Jing Ling, and the youngest brother was called Jing Mingkai. Mom, is it because you don't like and love me anymore now that big sister is here? Okay, then you'll side with big sister in the future. I'll run away from home. I heard that there are many families out there that need a son. I'll sell myself and never come back. Jing Mingkai opened his mouth and said. The way he spoke didn't sound like a son, but more like a father. Wang Xinfeng was just following Jing Yunzhao's words, but in the next second, when she heard Jing Mingkai's words, her face immediately stiffened. She quickly went forward and snatched the toys from Jing Xiu and Jing Ling's hands. Without saying anything, she stuffed them into Jing Mingkai's hands. Okay, okay, okay. I'll give them to you. Okay? My little ancestor, today is your big sister's first time coming home. Can't you stop? After that, she looked at Jing Yunzhao and said, Xiaoming is still young. The two of them don't need to play with these things. Jing Yunzhao's eyes darkened, but she didn't say anything. In her previous life, she had seen the faces of the Qiao family all her life. She was already sensitive, and what she hated the most was this kind of family. They were all children, but they had to divide them into different classes. Originally, Jing Yunzhao was somewhat repulsed by this family. Now that he saw this situation, he became even more wary. She had just been reunited with her family, so this couple was still polite to her. But no matter what, she was a girl. This couple could be harmonious for a day or two, but what about a year or two? In the future, her attitude towards her would be no different from Jing Xiu and Jing Ling. The polite smile on Jing Yunzhao's face faded a little, and he subconsciously kept his distance. Wang Xianfeng was busy with the work in her hands and didn't look at her, but Jing Mingkai was like a victorious peacock, shaking his head and wagging his tail to show off his spoils of war. Jing Ling pouted angrily, but Jing Xiu seemed to be used to it, silently turning around to help the family. The Jing family's courtyard was silent for a moment, but not long after, Jing Ling ran to her side. Looking at the clothes on her body, her eyes were shining. Today, Jing Yunzhao was wearing a pure white shirt, black shorts, and sports-type shoes. It looked like a simple outfit, but she was slightly taller and her skin was very white. She gave off a valiant and formidable-looking vibe, making her look cool and refreshing. But although the clothes were simple, the style was not outdated, and the quality was not bad. It could be considered branded clothes, and it was all chosen by Xiao Haiqing. Big sister, your clothes are really beautiful. It must be very expensive? Our mother is really generous. Big sister, and I don't have many new clothes all year round. Jing Ling reached out to touch Jing Yunzhao's clothes. Chapter 236. Jing Yunzhao originally wanted to avoid it, but considering that the two girls in the Jing family were not favored, she did not show any signs of avoiding others from approaching. It was just that Jing Ling's hands were stained with ashes, and suddenly, there were 5 fingerprints on her white shirt. Jing Yunzhao frowned. She allowed others to get close, but that did not mean that she could tolerate others taking a mile after giving an inch. Previously, when she gave the gift, this Jing Ling specially went to wash her hands. Now that her hands were full of ashes, it was obvious that she had just touched it. Yet, she used such hands to touch her clothes. How could Jing Yunzhao not understand this little trick? I'm sorry, big sister. I forgot that my hands were dirty, but your clothes have already been messed up by me. It won't look good wearing it. How about this? My mom also has a shirt. You can change into another one. Jing Ling quickly said. No need. Jing Yunzhao said. How can that be? Jing Ling quickly shook her head. She turned around and ran in front of Wang Xianfeng. With a sensible look, she said, Big sister, Mom also agreed. I'll bring you to change. Yes, big sister. You should change into another one. Later on, the neighbors will all come to see you. If they see you wearing dirty clothes, it won't be good. Wang Xianfeng also said. Jing Yunzhao lowered her head and looked at her clothes. The 5 fingerprints were very obvious. She had a lot of similar shirts in her space. There was no need to wear other people's clothes. I have spare clothes in my bag. I'll just borrow a room, Jing Yunzhao said. As soon as she finished speaking, Jing Ling's face stiffened. She pursed her lips, But when she saw the beautiful clothes on Jing Yunjiao's body, she reluctantly nodded her head. She was a 12-year-old child, yet she insisted on having a scheming look on her face. Jing Yunjiao wasn't blind. How could she not tell? Moreover, Xiao Hongya already knew this trick when she was 5 or 6 years old. What was Jing Ling's little trick? With that said, Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt that Xiao Hongya's bad nature seemed to have been brought out from her mother's womb. She was very bad since she was young. Year after year, she became more and more terrible. Other families rarely had people like her. Jing Xiao had been watching from the side. At this time, Jing Yunjiao wanted to use the room. She quickly took her into the room and locked the door. Big sister, you can change. I won't look, Jing Xiao said embarrassedly with her back facing Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao had a singlet under his shirt, so he wasn't afraid of being exposed. On the other hand, this Jing Xiao, whether it was her personality or appearance, was quite beautiful. She looked like an honest person, completely different from Jing Ling and Jing Mingkai. I heard that you're in the 3rd year of middle school, right? Jing Yunjiao asked as he changed his clothes. Jing Xiao nodded, but her expression was a little gloomy. But after this year, I'm afraid I'll have to drop out of school. My mom said that we don't have enough money at home. Mingkai will be in junior high in less than 2 years, and by then, the family will have to provide for him wholeheartedly. Xiaoling is more likable than me, and she'll have a bright future. To put it bluntly, she was the only child in the family who wasn't good, so she had to drop out of school to support the family. Jing Yunjiao was momentarily at a loss for words. She had a lot of assets now, and supporting a few people wasn't a problem. But she didn't want to open her mouth for some reason. Perhaps it was her nature to be selfish, but she felt that some things should be separated clearly. Especially when she saw how much Wang Xinfeng pampered Jing Mingkai, she was even more certain that as long as she opened her mouth to subsidize, she would be the same as her previous life. Everything would revolve around this family. That's right, big sister. Jing Xiao suddenly lowered her voice and carefully said, "Put away the clothes you changed out of, and also, it's best to put your school bag under your eyes." Chapter 237. Jing Yunjiao looked at her with some surprise, but found that Jing Xiao's face was red. She didn't know how to explain, and finally, under her gaze, she lowered her head. Third sister and little brother like to rummage through things. In short, you have to be careful. I heard from father and mother that you are now supporting yourself, so you have to watch your money. In short, don't give father and mother money. After saying this, Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Jing Xiao stuttered, looking very nervous and guilty. After Jing Yunjiao changed her clothes, she quickly walked out as if nothing had been said. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips, took her bag and walked out. Sure enough, the moment she stepped out, Jing Ling followed behind her. She looked around the room, but when she didn't find what she wanted, she went straight to Jing Yunjiao. "Big sis, where's your old clothes?" "I put them away, why?" Jing Yunjiao asked knowingly. "Didn't you change into a new one? Let me wear your old clothes." Jing Ling wasn't polite and said directly. Jing Yunjiao smiled coldly. If she directly said that she didn't have any clothes to wear at the beginning, maybe next time she would bring a few clothes and give them to her directly. But she directly used a scheming method to snatch it? It was true that she recognized her relatives, but she didn't want her to be a fool. "Those are my clothes. Even if I don't wear them after taking them off, they are still mine. Do you understand?" Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows and leaned back to avoid Jing Ling suddenly reaching out to grab it. When she said this, Jing Ling was suddenly unhappy. "Why are you so stingy? Look at how beautiful the clothes you are wearing are. My sister and I don't have nice clothes, and I didn't ask you to buy me new ones. What's wrong with asking for old ones?" Jing Yunjiao was angered by her and laughed. She couldn't understand this kind of worldview. Because others didn't have it, she should give up her own things? Was this a robber's logic? "Jingling, is there something wrong with your brain? Not to mention that this thing is mine. I have the right to control it. Just based on the size of the clothes, it is not something you can wear. Do you think your body can support it?" She was about 1.67 meters tall. Although she was thin, the areas that should be developed were not left behind. Although she was not as hot as Xiao Haiqing, she was very well proportioned. Jingling was only 12 years old this year. Her chest was flat, and she was shorter than her by a bit. But she wanted to wear her clothes? Being said like this by Jing Yunzhao, Jingling's mouth, she was angry. What big sister? She didn't match her clothes. What's so great? She was just 2 more lumps of flesh than her. She didn't know what she was. She didn't know what to think and ran. She ran. To define Jing Mingkai's Jing. She was, S's, she, S's, to looks to looked, S2's to look, S to look to hers the bag. She's T this A's. Jing Xiu had been helping out the whole time. She quickly prepared the food, and the whole family sat at the table, sitting neatly. Mom, what kind of treasures are in big sister's bag? Before they started eating, Jing Mingkai stretched his head out and asked. Jingling's face was full of pride. She sat on the stool and twisted, as long as Wang Xinfang nodded, she would immediately rush up and snatch the bag to take a look. Wang Xinfang was stunned and looked at Jing Yunzhao. That cold look made her lose some confidence. What can there be? Isn't it just clothes and books? Don't worry about the children. Hurry up and eat, Jing Taijun said. Chapter 238. Actually, it wasn't only Jing Mingkai and Jing Ling who were curious. Even Wang Xianfang wanted to know what Jing Yunzhao carried with him every day. Every time she saw Jing Yunzhao would always have this bag by her side. Just now, when she entered the door, she reached out to help, but Jing Yunzhao rejected her with a smile, as if no one was allowed to touch that bag. Jing Yunzhao also expected this, but he pretended not to hear it. This bag was her trick. Every time she wanted to take something from her space, she would use it to cover it. In fact, it was just some small things to fool people. Pa. Jing Mingkai put down his chopsticks. I don't want it. I want to see what big sister is hiding. Xiaoming, don't mess around. Wang Xianfang didn't know what to do with her son. I'm not messing around. Dad, Mom, you must have bought something good for her and not let me see it. You said that she was pitiful to be left outside. But how is she pitiful? She wears better clothes than us and spends your money to buy things. You're not even that generous to me. You're so good to her. Why don't you just let me quit school and give all the money I saved to big sister? Jing Mingkai cried. When he said this, Wang Xianfang's face turned white. Her son didn't like to go to school since he was young, and his grades weren't good. Every morning when he went to school, she had to persuade him. In the past, he didn't have an excuse to be lazy, so he was obedient. Now, would he take the opportunity to quit school? It didn't matter to her whether her daughter went to school or not. In any case, she would marry someone in the future. No matter how much money she spent now, it would be spent on other people. Her son was different. Their whole family only had this one precious child. They hoped that he would go to school and learn some skills. Only then would he be able to take care of them in old age. On the side, Jing Taijun's somewhat simple and honest face was also moved by Jing Mingkai. Xiao Yuna, look, your little brother wants to see your bag. Anyway, you won't lose anything. Why don't you open it and let him see? Wang Xianfang finally opened her mouth. Jing Yunzhao laughed sarcastically. So it was as expected. This was the first day he recognized his family. If it was like this, then how good would it be in the future? As long as Jing Mingkai opened his mouth, the girl in this family would have to suffer? From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like the Jing family's grandmother is the one who values boys over girls. Annie Wang, this is my first time here. Rather than saying that I'm a family member, it's better to say that I'm a guest. If you treat a guest like this, won't I have to be a filial sister one day? Today, I'll send my bag up, but what about tomorrow? Give him money? Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. He was too lazy to serve her. She had a bad temper to begin with. In her previous life, she had endured it her entire life. It was impossible for her to endure it in this life. If family members were like this, then it would be better to be alone. How can you talk to my mother like that? You even called her Auntie Wang. You don't even think of yourself as part of our family. Jing Ling immediately scolded. If it were you, would you immediately kneel down and call a family member your mother? Especially with such a mother? Jing Yunzhao's lips curled up as she scoffed coldly. A son doesn't despise his mother for being ugly, but it also depends on the time. Yiqin didn't treat her well, but after all, she had already passed away. Moreover, without Yi Qin, she might not have been able to live. So even if she hated the Qiao family, but towards Yi Qin, her heart still retained some respect. But Wang Xi and Fong was different. They were only related by blood. She didn't know how to appreciate the kindness of raising her. She only had the resentment of an abandoned child. Now, with this attitude of valuing boys over girls, how could it be possible for her to feel the affection of a mother and son? Chapter 239. Jing Yunzhao's words gave everyone a fright. Jing Xiu's head was almost buried under the table, one hand grabbing the edge of the table. She didn't know why, but she seemed to be very nervous. As for Jing Ling, her eyes were wide open. After all, she was still young and was directly intimidated by Jing Yunzhao's aura. Jing Mingkai had always been a tyrant. How could he know how to write the word fear? He still did as he pleased and said, "You're really shameless. You're spending my parents' money and still yelling. Who said I spent your parents' money?" Jing Yunzhao's pair of red phoenix eyes slightly raised. "Uncle Jing, Aunt Wang, until now, I haven't taken advantage of your family, right? You're lying. I clearly remember that my mom spent money to buy you a dress, more than 100 yuan. Jing Mingkai said again. This was naturally told to him by Jing Ling. Because it was women's clothing, Wang Xinfang specially wore Jing Ling, this little girl who loved to look pretty, when she went shopping. Is it this one? Jing Yunzhao directly took out the dress from the bag. The tag on it was untouched. With one look, one could tell that it wasn't worn or touched. I rejected it. On one hand, this style doesn't suit me. On the other hand, I felt that my family's living conditions were more difficult, so there was no need to spend this kind of money. But Aunt Wang, you forced it into my hands. I had no choice but to bring it back to you today. If you want to talk about taking advantage of others, the value of the things I bought today is much higher than this. Jing Mingkai, that remote control car of yours is worth a few hundred yuan. Those 2 plush dolls are a bit cheaper, but those fruits can't even be bought in the market. Other than that, there's no need to talk about other things. There were 5 people in the Jing family, and everyone had a gift. She also considered that the Jing family might favor boys over girls, so the little boy should be a bit more mischievous. So in order to make Jing Taijun and his wife happy, the price of the gift for Jing Mingkai was a bit more expensive. Wang Xinfang didn't think that her request would make Jing Yunzhao say so much. She only felt that she had no face in front of the child. The results of the paternity test were already out. As a daughter, shouldn't Jing Yunzhao be obedient to her parents from now on? Now, not only did he call them aunt and uncle, he even scolded them. And her son didn't ask for anything? He just wanted her to take out her bag for a look? Could it be that there was something shameful inside? At the thought of this, Wang Xinfang's heart skipped a beat. Her gaze met Jing Yunzhao's extremely beautiful face. Both Jing Xiu and Jing Ling were good-looking, but Jing Xiu was a little stiff, and Jing Ling's facial features were a little too sharp, unlike Jing Yunzhao, who had a unique temperament. Eldest girl, your younger brother is still young. Didn't he just say a few words to you? Do you have to calculate it so clearly? Wang Xinfang still couldn't hold back and showed a calculative face. Xiaoming is the only boy in our family. Although we spoil him a little, Xiaoming is still very sensible. Look at Xiu and Ling they usually give in to their younger brother. However, Xiu used to be the eldest, so they should give in to him. But it's different now. You're also our daughter. It's time for you to take on the responsibility of being the eldest. Wang Xinfang opened her mouth. Jing Taijun was a little hesitant and tugged at her. However, in the next moment, she glared at him and said, "You're already our daughter. What's there to worry about?" Although Jing Taijun was worried that Jing Yunzhao would be scared away, he thought that it was right. Blood relations were all on the surface, so there was no need to worry. Which parent didn't educate their child? Since Jing Yunzhao didn't know any better, then he should be beaten and scolded. Chapter 240. When Jing Yunzhao heard Wang Xinfang's words, she actually felt the anger in her heart dissipate. Every time she saw Wang Xinfang, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. It was true that one's appearance was born from one's heart. Wang Xinfang exuded the aura of a petty and calculative woman, but every time she met her, She had to put on a pitiful act, which made her feel that something was wrong. In other words, this biological mother of hers had always been putting on an act, which made her feel quite uncomfortable. In terms of passion, Xiao Haiqing was passionate, and Grandpa Gan's family was equally passionate towards her, but they were different from Wang Xinfang. They were not like her, who always seemed to be preparing for the next sentence, who always put on a pitiful and worried look in front of her. There was even a hint of a special gaze in their eyes, as if they were expecting her to cry and acknowledge her as their family, and then be obedient to her from then on. They were two-faced. From the moment she saw these two people, she felt this way, but there were some things that she just couldn't say. Give in to my younger brother? Specifically? Do you want me to drop out of school and take care of his daily needs? Jing Yunzhao looked at the table full of warm dishes, but her heart was very cold. Her adoptive parents were like this, and her biological parents were like this. How many lifetimes had she been a bad person to be tormented like this? Wang Xinfang sighed. Daughter, it's not that I don't love you, but you haven't been home for so many years, and you don't get along with your younger brother and sister the moment you come back. Won't the family be even more chaotic in the future? As the saying goes, if the family is harmonious, everything will prosper. Your younger brother and sister are still young, so you should give in to them and bear with it. Our family is also like this. We don't have any money, so we decided to support your younger sister for another year before dropping her out of school. Now that both of you have dropped out, we can also take back the land that we rented out. Our lives will definitely get better in the future. Jing Yunzhao's face was as cold as ice. She thought that she could endure for a few days, at least until she could call her mother before being so biased. She didn't expect that she couldn't endure it on the first day. You say it as if it's my fault that I haven't been home for so many years. Jing Yunzhao snorted softly and said, since we're already out in the open, you can also tell me the question in my heart. Back then, was it you or the old lady who threw me away? Your grandmother threw it. Wang Xinfang glanced at Jing Taijun and said. Jing Xiu's body trembled. Then where did the jade on my neck come from? Is it a family heirloom, or was it bought outside? Jing Yunzhao asked again. Your grandfather gave it to me. I tied it around your neck. Your grandmother doesn't know about it, Jing Taijun explained. One last question. You haven't seen me for more than 10 years, so how did you recognize me at first glance? Don't tell me you saw the thing on my neck. I never put that thing outside my clothes. Jing Yunzhao said sternly. The words of this pair of parents were evasive, so they must be lying. If the DNA test results were correct, then she should have been thrown away by her parents, right? Dia, you're my daughter. How can I not recognize you? As soon as I saw you, I was certain that you were my daughter. Doesn't this prove that I found the right person? Do you want me to bring the DNA test results for you to see again? Just that piece of paper cost our family a few thousand yuan. Wang Xinfang said unhappily. Jing Yunzhao stood up. She could feel that this pair of parents' attitude toward her was fake, but she didn't think that their real faces would be so chilling. Chapter 241. There was no point in continuing this meal. She had a good life without her parents, so she could live comfortably by herself in the future. Jing Yunzhao stood up and walked towards the door, but Jing Mingkai immediately ran up to stop her. Big sister, let me see your bag. She still didn't change. I'm not your big sister. Your big sister was thrown outside and starved to death long ago. Jing Yunzhao coldly snorted and pushed Jing Mingkai away. However, her action immediately angered Wang Xianfang, and Jing Taijun even fiercely slapped the table and angrily said, Stop right there. Wang Xianfang quickly ran to Jing Mingkai's side and helped him up. Son, are you okay? Where are you hurt? Mom, she hit me. Big sister actually dared to hit me. She's only back for the first day, and she's already like this. In the future, I'll have no place in this family. I might as well just drop out of school. I'll drop out and come back to work. In the future, you can count on her to be successful outside and then take care of you when you're old. Jing Mingkai calmly and shamelessly howled. At the age of 10, one could already distinguish right from wrong. However, Jing Mingkai was spoiled by his parents. Even if he knew what he was doing was wrong, he still wanted everyone to follow him. Jing Mingkai's words were like a knife cutting Wang Xianfang's body. She was both hurt and angry. They didn't recognize their daughter to let her come back and bully their son. Ming Kai was their treasure. No one could treat him badly. Jing Taijun also walked over. He still had some sense. Xiao Yun, your mom making you drop out of school was wrong. She only said it in a moment of anger. But you treating your brother like this really makes the family feel bitterly disappointed. That's right. You're the meat that fell from my stomach. How can you not understand my painstaking efforts? Wang Xian Fong cried. She stretched out her hands in front of Jing Yunjiao. Look at my pair of hands. It's rough and ugly. It's all because your dad and I worked so hard to earn money to support the family. It wasn't easy for us to raise our son to this age. In the future, we'll have someone to take care of us when we're old. But you, as soon as you come home, you bully your parents' precious treasure to death. You think we've let you down, but what have we let you down? Did I give birth to you? Furthermore, it's your grandmother's fault that you wandered outside. Look at you. Aren't you doing well now? She was good-looking and good at her studies. What was there to be calculative about? What's more, I've put in so much effort to prepare such a big table of food today. In the end, you didn't even look at it and turned to leave. Is this what a daughter should do? The fact that the Jing family had found their eldest daughter was a topic worth discussing in the village. Early in the morning, there were already people loitering outside the Jing family's door to see how the daughter looked like. On the other hand, Wang Xinfang's voice was so sharp that the neighbors could hear her clearly. In this small village, the relationship between the villagers was harmonious. When they heard that Jing Yunjiao was disdainful of his biological parents, they were not very happy and gathered in front of the Jing family's house. This girl looks pretty good, but why is her character so bad? To think that little Ming's mother woke up so early in the morning to prepare the food. She's feeding the ingrate. Isn't that so? I was listening at the door just now. Little Ming wanted to take a look at her bag, but as his sister, she actually refused and wanted to leave. The villagers at the door were pointing and gossiping, as if Jing Yunjiao had committed a grave mistake. Even in his previous life, Jing Yunjiao had never encountered such a scene. Chapter 242. Life in the Chao family wasn't easy, but when Yiqin was still alive, it was still okay because Yiqin was a little superstitious and prideful. She firmly believed that she could block evil for Chao Hongye and Chao Zizhou, so even though she didn't treat her well, she wouldn't point fingers at her in front of outsiders. At that time, Yiqin was like this, so Chao Weimin wasn't considered a bastard. It was just that Chao Hongye targeted her too much in school. It wasn't until after Yiqin's death that everything became worse, and she became hated by everyone in town. But even so, the people in town were more or less rational. In addition, their relationship with the Chao family wasn't that good, so very few people meddled in other people's business. At most, they would say a few words behind her back. There had never been so many people surrounding her and cursing her word by word. This feeling was like being dragged into a slaughterhouse, as if she wasn't a human, but an animal. Jing Yunjiao's body trembled slightly. She suddenly rejoiced that she didn't meet this pair of parents in her past life. In her past life, she had great expectations for her parents, and her state of mind wasn't as strong as it was now. If she was treated like this at that time, she would be so ashamed that she wanted to die. She might even go crazy under these gazes. But now, she was more rational. I suddenly have some doubts. Are you really my parents? Biological parents can actually favor boys to such an extent that they can scold their daughter, who left home for so many years in front of so many people. Jing Yunjiao mocked and ridiculed. When she came early this morning, she came with good intentions. She thought that as long as this family treated her well, then she could work hard to accept it. Even though she had Chao Hongye and Chao Zizhou, that pair of siblings, their relationship wasn't good. But now, after all, they were biological siblings, so it shouldn't be difficult for them to get along. Who knew that reality was more dramatic than she imagined? Wang Xinfang's face flashed with panic, but it quickly turned into bitterness. What do you mean now? You don't want to acknowledge us? Eldest daughter, both of you are flesh and blood. Do you think we want to be biased? Our family is poor, we have no money, your brother is young, and you are older. Shouldn't you give in? Ask these neighbors, whose family isn't like this. When the neighbors heard this, they immediately began to echo. In their village, there was only one child in the family, and the situation of a girl was almost non-existent. If they couldn't give birth to a son, then they would be disdained by others. His son was noble, so it was natural for him to side with his son. The Jing family was not bad. 10 years ago, there was a family next door that gave birth to 6 daughters but only one son. In the end, only 2 of the 6 daughters survived, and one of them was given to a distant relative. In comparison, although Jing Yunjiao had been abandoned outside for many years, he was still doing well. She was dressed even better than Jing Mingkai. What was there to be dissatisfied about? Jing Yunjiao was flustered by the logic of these bandits. It was true that both the palm and the back of the hand were made of flesh, but the back of the hand was thin while the palm was thick. In her eyes, men and women were all the same. Moreover, girls were more considerate and sensible. Take the Jing family, for example. Jing Xiao was gentle and considerate. She was helping her parents work all day without saying a word. But what was Jing Mingkai doing all day? Jing Mingkai was already 10 years old now. In another 10 or 20 years, how could she not be able to tell what kind of person he would be? Just treat it as if I didn't acknowledge you, Jing Yunjiao said with a cold face, his eyes firm. She had done her best and left the rest to fate. She had done what she should do, but people who walked different paths couldn't make plans together. She and this family had too many differences in thinking. In the future, if she forced herself to get along, she was afraid that they would quarrel endlessly. No one would be able to live peacefully. Chapter 243. When Jing Yunjiao said this, Wang Xinfang was stunned. Jing Taijun was also stunned, and the villagers outside who were watching the show with a look of justice were also stunned. Wang Xinfang only felt that Jing Yunjiao was too stubborn. It wasn't that she didn't try to be nice to her, but she had a cold personality and didn't seem to be enthusiastic. How long would it take to coax her to be obedient and sensible? The couple wanted to do that, but they didn't have that much patience. Moreover, if it was just coaxing her, it wouldn't be a problem. After all, they didn't see each other often, so there was no need to bother. But now that it was related to her son, she couldn't restrain herself. Jing Yunjiao was their daughter now, but compared to her real daughter, she was really far away. Jing Xiao wasn't like her. Xiao'er was sensible. Since the age of 5 or 6, she could help them take care of their younger siblings and help them with the housework. She would do whatever they said and never disobey. If Jing Yunjiao and Jing Xiao had the same temper, then it definitely wouldn't be like this. You're saying that you don't treat us as your parents? Jing Taijun asked with a gloomy face, but his heart was panicking. He couldn't hold himself back just now, so if he wanted to be an amiable parent and make Jing Yunjiao pour her heart out for him again, it would definitely be impossible. Since that was the case, he could only omit that step. Otherwise, all his hard work these past few days would have been in vain. Jing Yunjiao turned to look at Jing Taijun. You don't necessarily treat me as your daughter. Rather than a daughter, it was better to say that she was their son's stepping stone. They hoped that she would be a well-behaved little expert like Jing Xiao, with no future to speak of. How could she be willing to be such a person in this life? But thinking of Jing Xiao, Jing Yunjiao glanced at her, only to see a very complicated look in the girl's eyes, as if she was envious of her courage, but also as if she was worried about her situation. She was a good sister. Wah! Wang Xinfang suddenly sat on the ground and wailed. What sin have I committed? The daughter that I tried so hard to bring home despises the poor and loves the rich. She looks down on us as parents. Poor me for waking up early and working late to cook a table of food for her. Poor me for being pregnant for 10 months. Jing Yunjiao's face darkened. Scoundrel! If the person who did this to her was Chao Weiman, Jing Yunjiao would not hesitate to pick him up from the ground and give him a good beating. But now, this person was someone who was related to her by blood. No matter how unhappy and resentful she was, she could not raise her hand or scold her. It was simply too sullen. Why is the courtyard so lively? I'm not late, am I? Jing Yunjiao braced himself and was about to rush out when a figure walked into the crowd. He was wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up and the collar open. It was obviously a very proper shirt, but when he wore it, it had a wanton and unruly charm. Jing Yunjiao was surprised. Why are you here? Li Xiaoyun. Although she was in a bad mood when she called him last night, she didn't explain the situation to him. Why did he come to the Jing family directly? Also, was he still in the capital last night? If this young master didn't come, wouldn't I hear the sound of you crying when I call you at night? Li Xiaoyun said lightly. Jing Yunzhao rolled her eyes. She was sullen, but it wasn't to the point of crying over such a small matter, right? It was fine if her parents didn't recognize her. She wouldn't do anything to hurt herself for anyone. Whether she was selfish or heartless, she should love herself more. If Li Xiaoyun didn't come, this pair of parents would cry their eyes out and she would still have to leave. Even if she saw him on the road in the future, she would just treat him as a stranger. Chapter 244. Li Xiaoyun had an air of nobility about him. The moment he appeared, everyone around him fell silent. Behind him, there was only Du Lin and no one else. Du Lin, on the other hand, glanced at Wang Xi and Feng on the ground and curled his lips. He finally understood why young Master Li said that Jing Yunzhao had met with trouble and even ran back here. The behavior of biological parents was really tragic. One had to know that Jing Yunzhao was still a little girl who had yet to reach adulthood. Since she had found her biological parents, the responsibility of guardianship would naturally be transferred to them. The things they could decide were much more than her adoptive parents. Moreover, if Jing Yunzhao resisted and broke off their relationship, then Jing Yunzhao would definitely be scolded by others until she couldn't raise her head. When Jing Taijun saw these people, he was shocked. He hadn't seen much of the world, but he could tell that these two people weren't simple. He felt uneasy, but when he remembered that he was Jing Yunzhao's biological father in name, he felt more confident. He stepped forward and asked, "Who are you?" "This young master has just arrived. I only heard a few cries from afar. I didn't hear anything else. Why don't you repeat it for this young master?" Li Xiaoyun picked his ears and said casually. He directly ignored Jing Tiejuan's existence. Jing Taijun was just a rough man. When dealing with a young girl like Jing Yunzhao, he could still exert the aura of a father. However, when facing an outsider like Li Xiaoyun, his aura was useless. Wang Xinfeng, on the other hand, was more powerful. She didn't care about her reputation. As long as she knew that she was her biological daughter, no one could do anything to her. Therefore, she said, "What a sin. My eldest daughter is still so young, but now she actually brought an unknown outsider to our house to cause trouble. If we die, how can we face our ancestors?" Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. "Aren't we still alive? Did you buy all these things?" Li Xiaoyun pointed at the pile of things in the courtyard and asked. Jing Yunzhao nodded. "That's good. Du Lin, take the things. We're leaving." Li Xiaoyun ordered. Yes. Du Lin hurriedly agreed. These were the fruits that Jing Yunzhao had brought over. His Yutianxian had sold them at a very high price. It was simply a waste to give them to this family. Even though it was difficult for an honest and upright official to resolve family disputes, young Master Li was not an honest and upright official. He was the best of the scoundrels, the overlord of the best. He was a man of his word. If he could torment Xiao Weiman until he went bankrupt, he would naturally be able to make the Jing family's life more difficult in the future. Of course, as long as Jing Yunzhao agreed. Du Lin took his things while everyone was still in shock. He was ready to leave at any time. Li Xiaoyun smirked. "I've seen a lot of bad people, but it's rare to see people like you. It doesn't matter if you're related by blood or not, but from today onwards, it's gone. Wasn't it just a paternity test certificate? This young master has plenty of ways to get you a few different ones." After Li Xiaoyun finished speaking, Jing Yunzhao was also a little surprised. What did he mean by that? Get a few more? Could it be that he wanted to make use of his connections to make the real goods in the hands of these two parents fake? But at the same time, a ridiculous idea flashed through Jing Yunzhao's mind. He glared at Wang Xinfeng. After Li Xiaoyun finished speaking, he pulled Jing Yunzhao and was about to leave. Jing Taijun saw this and panicked. "Where are you taking our family's daughter? Someone come quickly. This heartless wild man who came out of God knows where is trying to kidnap our Jing family's daughter." In an instant, an ear-piercing howl was heard. Jing Yunzhao was also shocked when she heard this. Chapter 245. After Wang Xinfang shouted her words out loud, the villagers outside felt even more righteous. In the blink of an eye, they scattered like birds, but when they reappeared, each of them was holding a shovel, an iron rod, and a lethal weapon in their house, surrounding the three of them tightly. When Jing Taijun saw that there were so many people helping him, he became more confident. He was Jing Yunjiao's father, so he had the right to make her stay at home and not go anywhere. At most, he could force her to stay and lock her up. The school would directly withdraw her from school, and it would still be considered as completing the task. This mighty scene was really shocking. The small village was quite cohesive, and everyone hated evil. They simply treated Li Xiaoyun as a thief who stole someone's daughter. Jing Yunjiao believed that even if Li Xiaoyun didn't come today, she might still encounter such a scene when she was about to leave. Therefore, she felt a little embarrassed to implicate Li Xiaoyun. But at the same time, she had completely given up on this family in her heart. Dad, Mom, let big sister go. She's living well outside and you're not. When Jing Xiu saw this scene, she was so scared that she started to cry. She felt that her conscience was being condemned. Pa. Wang Xinfang directly slapped her. I raised you for nothing all these years, didn't I? Your big sister was born from my 10 months of pregnancy. How could she run away with a wild man outside? I don't blame her for not having any sense of shame when she was wandering outside, but she has to change in the future. Otherwise, people will think that our family's children are all like this. Jing Yunjiao softly mocked. She thought that she just didn't fit in with this family, and that this pair of parents was just full of control over her. But now, it seemed that they had an indelible enmity towards her. They wanted to destroy her. Jing Xiu covered her face and cried even harder. Looking at this scene, she even felt a little resentful in her heart. All these years, was it because she didn't do well enough? She gave in to this pair of sisters-in-law. Every day, she woke up early and worked late to help with the family's chores. She didn't wear many new clothes since she was young. She was also a girl, and she also liked to be beautiful, but she knew that her family was poor, so she endured it, worked hard to be sensible, and studied hard. Her grades had always been the best in the school, but she still couldn't compare to her younger brother who was at the bottom of the class. Her family was poor, but her younger brother's clothes were always new. He had a lot of toys and did not need to help the family with anything. Her parents kept saying that he was young, but when she was his age, she was already living like an adult. Why couldn't her younger brother do the same? She had complained before, but she had endured it. She hoped that her parents could be lenient and let her continue to attend high school and university in the future on account of her being sensible. But she still couldn't change it. A year later, she would have to come back and support the family. God knew how unwilling she was. The moment she saw Jing Yunjiao today, her eyes were filled with shock and sympathy. She knew her parents' character, and she knew very well that they wouldn't be good to Jing Yunjiao for too long. In the future, Jing Yunjiao, this older sister, would become as insignificant as she was. So she wanted to tell her to leave quickly and not acknowledge her family. Fortunately, her older sister was really different from her. She was very powerful and would not blindly obey her younger brother. She could even straighten her back and leave coldly. She was very envious, but now that she saw the other uncles targeting her, she was burning with anxiety. How could these uncles be like this? What if they really hurt her older sister and her friends? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.